Hey, I'm Tessa. I thought I was living the American dream. I was married to Mike, the guy I'd liked since high school. We had a cute house in the suburbs, matching coffee mugs, the whole thing. I even got along with my in-laws at first. Karen and Bob seemed nice, always inviting us over for Sunday dinners, but that changed quickly. It started small, with Karen making little comments about my cooking. "Oh, Tessa, is this how you usually make pot roast?" she'd say. I thought she was just being a typical mother-in-law, but things got worse. Bob started questioning every decision Mike and I made, like suggesting Mike should work at his company instead of his current job. I tried to ignore it, thinking it was just normal in-law stuff, but I felt something was off. Then I got the big news: I was pregnant. I was thrilled and couldn't wait to tell everyone. Mike was over the moon, spinning me around in the kitchen. I thought this would bring us all closer, but when we told Karen and Bob, it felt like I'd announced I had the plague. Karen's smile got stiff, and Bob just grunted and stared at the TV. Mike didn't seem to notice, but I felt the atmosphere freeze. From that day, it felt like they were out to get me. Every visit and phone call brought criticism about my job, friends, and how I was preparing for the baby. Karen would question my food choices, and Bob would suggest I quit working because it was too stressful. It was driving me crazy, but Mike didn't see it or didn't want to. He'd say they were just trying to help or that I was being too sensitive. Things reached a breaking point at my baby shower, which Karen had insisted on hosting. When I walked in, it felt like I had crashed someone else's party. None of my friends were there, just Karen's bridge club and some distant relatives. "Surprise, dear, we thought this would be more appropriate," they said. I completely lost it. Right there in front of everyone, I laid into Karen, saying, "Appropriate? You mean boring and not about me at all. This is my baby shower, Karen, not your social club meeting." Mike quickly pulled me aside, looking embarrassed, and whispered, "Tessa, what's gotten into you?" "They're just trying to help." That's when I realized they had gotten to him. Somehow, my in-laws had turned Mike against me. The argument that followed was intense. Harsh words were exchanged, tears were shed, and by the end of it, I was standing on the porch with a suitcase while Mike closed the door on me. He said, "I think you need some time to cool off, Tessa. Maybe stay with a friend for a while." Just like that, I was out, pregnant, alone, and wondering how my perfect life had turned into a nightmare. There I was, pregnant and kicked out. Classy, right? For a few nights, I even slept on park benches, feeling like the world's biggest loser. Then, I remembered Jade, my old college roommate. I hadn't spoken to her in ages, but desperate times, right? I showed up at her door, looking like a total mess. Jade's eyes went wide. "Tessa, holy, what happened to you?" The next thing I knew, I was crying on her couch, pouring out the entire awful story. Bless her heart, Jade didn't hesitate for a second. She said, "You're staying here." End of discussion. So there I was, crashing in Jade's spare room, feeling like a charity case, but Jade wasn't having any of my pity party nonsense. "Get your butt up, Tessa, we're going job hunting," she said. Easier said than done when you're walking around like a waddling penguin, but Jade was determined. We hit every business in town, and just when I thought we were done, boom, baby decided it was time to make her entrance. I'm in the hospital, squeezing Jade's hand so hard it feels like I'm trying to juice an orange. She's right there with me, cheering me on. "Come on, Tessa, push, you got this." And then, just like that, Lily arrives, this tiny, screaming bundle of awesomeness. The moment I see her, it's like my life flips. I've got someone to fight for now. Jade helps me get back on my feet, watching Lily while I work 2 jobs. It's exhausting, but I'm making it work. One day at the diner, I overhear some guys talking about real estate. "Man, I can't believe that dump sold for that much. Location, location, location." Something clicks in my head. I start reading everything I can about real estate. Jade thinks I've lost it. "Real estate, Tessa? Are you sure?" But I've got this fire in me. I study like crazy, pass the exam, and before I know it, I'm showing houses. On my first sale, I'm shaking like a leaf, but I close the deal. It hits me, I can do this. Fast forward a couple of years, and I'm thriving. I've got my own agency, Lily's in preschool, and life is good. Then one night, I'm at a fancy industry dinner, chatting with some big shots, when I overhear something. "Yeah, old Bob's in trouble. Heard they might lose the house." My ears perk up. "Bob who?" I ask, trying to play it cool. "Bob Thompson. He used to be a big deal, but now he's drowning in debt. Shame about the house, it's a real beauty." I almost choke on my champagne. Thompson, my former in-laws. The ones who threw me out like I didn't matter. Right then and there, a wild idea starts forming in my head. It's risky, probably a terrible plan, but I can't shake it. I grab my phone and shoot a text to my lawyer friend. Alex, need to talk. Got a proposition for you. How do you feel about shell companies? Alex replies almost instantly, Tessa, what are you up to? I grin, feeling like the cat that swallowed the canary. Oh, nothing much, just thinking about getting into the landlord business. As I leave the dinner, my mind's racing. This is it, my chance to turn the tables and show them exactly who they messed with. Watch out, Thompson family, because Tessa's coming back, and this time, I'm the one holding all the cards. So there I am, scrolling through foreclosure listings like it's my new obsession, and bam, I find it, the Thompson house. I almost spit out my coffee. I call Jade right away. You're not going to believe this. Tessa, it's 3 a.m. Someone better be dead or on fire. Remember that crazy idea I had? It's go time. The next morning, I'm in Alex's office, laying out my plan. He looks at me like I've completely lost it. Let me get this straight, you want to buy your in-laws' house through a shell company? Bingo, can you make it happen or not? Alex sighs, rubbing his temples. It's not illegal, but Tessa, are you really sure about this? I lean in, dead serious, more sure than I've ever been about anything. For the next few weeks, we work out all the details. Jade thinks I'm nuts, but she's in my corner. If this blows up in your face, don't come crying to me, but also, I've got bail money ready. The day of the auction, I'm a ball of nerves. Alex is bidding on behalf of our fake company, and I'm in the back, trying not to throw up. Going once, going twice, sold to Karma Properties LLC. I nearly pass out. Holy, we actually did it. The next few days are a whirlwind of paperwork, inspections, and all the boring stuff, but then, it's official, I now own the Thompson house. Jade's helping me prepare for the big reveal. She gives me a look and asks, you sure you want to do this, Tessa? It's not too late to back out. I look at myself in the mirror, power suit on, hair done, makeup perfect, war paint. I think with a grin, oh, I'm sure about this. It's time they learned who they're dealing with. I grab my briefcase, feeling like a boss. Inside, I've got the new lease agreement, terms so tight it'd make a loan shark blush. As I'm about to leave, Lily runs up, hugging my legs. Mommy, where are you going? I kneel down, looking her in the eye. Mommy's got some unfinished business, baby, but when I come back, we're going to celebrate big, be time. I kiss her forehead, then head out. In the car, I take a deep breath. This is it, the moment I've been waiting for. I pull up to the house, my old house. Memories flood back, both good and bad. For a second, I hesitate, but then I remember that night, standing on the porch, pregnant and alone. Game on. I stride up to the door, confidence oozing from every pore. I raise my hand to knock, a smile creeping across my face. Oh, this is going to be good. I knock, my heart pounding like a jackhammer. Karen opens the door, and her face shifts from confusion to shock faster than you can say karma. Tessa, what on earth are you doing here? I push past her, striding into the living room like I own the place, because, well, I do. Family meeting, now. Bob and Mike rush in, probably expecting the cops or something. The look on their faces when they see me, priceless. Mike stammers, what's going on, Tessa? What are you doing here? I slap the papers down on the coffee table. Meet your new landlord, boys and girls. The room explodes, Karen shrieking, Bob's face turns purple, and Mike, he just stands there, mouth hanging open like a fish. This is impossible, you can't do this, Bob bellows. Oh, but I can, and I did. Now let's talk about your new lease agreement. I lay it out for them, rent jacked up just under market value, no pets, no subletting, no changes without my express permission, the whole works. This is highway robbery, Karen screeches. No, Karen, this is business, something you should understand, given how you treated me. Mike finally finds his voice. Tessa, why are you doing this? I turn to him, all that old pain and anger bubbling up. You want to know why? Let me spell it out for you, Mike. I tell them everything, about the nights I slept in my car, the struggle to find work while pregnant, giving birth with only Jade by my side. While you were here playing happy families, I was out there fighting to survive, for me, and for our daughter. Remember her, Mike, the baby you kicked out along with me? Mike looks like I just slapped him, stunned into silence. But you know what? I made it. I built a life, a career, all on my own, no thanks to any of you. Bob tries to put on a tough front. We'll fight this. You can't get away with it, he blusters. I laugh. And it feels good. Go ahead, try. But don't forget, I'm not just your landlord, I'm the realtor who knows every dirty little secret about this house, every code violation, every unpermitted renovation. One call from me, and this place is condemned faster than you can blink. Their confidence deflates like a popped balloon. They know they're beaten. So, here's how it's going to be. You follow the rules, and we won't have any problems. But if you cross me, you'll be out on the street before you can even say karma. I gather up my papers, feeling lighter than I have in years. As I reach the door, I turn back one last time. Oh, and Mike? Lily says hi. Not that you'd know what she looks like these days. I walk out, head held high. Behind me, I can hear Karen sobbing and Bob cursing, but all I feel is peace. I did it. I took back my power, and it feels damn good. As I drive away, I can't help but smile. Lily's waiting for me at home, and we've got some celebrating to do. Life's funny sometimes. They thought they were ruining me, but in the end, they made me stronger than ever. Watch out, world, Tessa's back, and she's taking no prisoners. Now, here's a question for you. Was Tessa justified in buying her in-laws' house and imposing those harsh rental terms? Or did she take it too far in her quest for revenge? After all, they kicked her out while she was pregnant, but she also separated a father from his child. Where's the line between justice and vengeance, and did Tessa cross it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm really curious to hear what you think, and if this story fired you up, hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of revenge and justice. You won't want to miss what's coming next.
The voicemail light blinked on my phone like a tiny beacon of karma. 3 missed calls from the number I'd blocked years ago, and now this message waiting to be heard. I let it sit there while I finished my morning coffee, watching the sunrise through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my custom-built home. The home they said I'd never have. My name is Trinity, and I learned early that some parents measure love in degrees of ability. Mine had 2 daughters, me and my perfectly able-bodied sister Livia. Guess which one got the college fund? I pressed play on the voicemail, my father's voice crackling through the speaker. Trinity, it's Dad. We need to talk. It's urgent. Your mother and I, we've hit some trouble. Livia's company. Well, we need your house, Trinity. You're the only one who can help. I laughed so hard my coffee nearly spilled. The irony was delicious, better than the organic Brazilian roast in my custom-height mug holder. Everything okay? Aaron called from his makeshift office in my guest room. He'd been crashed here all week while we finished a major consulting project. Remember when I told you karma would eventually come knocking? I wheeled over to his doorway. Well, it just left a voicemail. Aaron looked up from his laptop, eyebrows raised. The parents who said you'd never amount to anything need something from you. Do tell. Apparently, their golden child startup tanked. I pulled up beside his desk, showing him the local business news article I'd already found. Live It, the revolutionary self-affirmation app that was going to make them all millionaires, the one they emptied my college fund to invest in, the same college fund they promised was untouchable. Aaron's face darkened. He'd been there that day 5 years ago when I discovered the truth. The very same. I closed my eyes, the memory sharp as broken glass. It's just business, Trinity, my father had said, not even looking at me as he signed the papers. Livia's app has real potential. Your fund, well, it was just sitting there. You understand, don't you? She's sitting there for my education, I'd replied, my hands gripping my wheelchair arms so tight my knuckles went white. For my future. My mother had the audacity to pat my shoulder. Honey, be realistic. In your condition, what kind of future were you really planning? The sound of Aaron snapping his fingers brought me back. Earth to Trinity. You went somewhere dark just now. Just remembering the day they told me I wasn't worth investing in. I smiled, but it wasn't a happy expression. Now they need my investment, my house, the one I built with the consulting business they said would never work. My phone buzzed again. Another call from my father. I let it ring. "What are you thinking?" Aaron asked, knowing that look in my eyes. I wheeled to the window, surveying my domain. Every inch of this house was designed for independence, for survival, for success on my own terms. The adaptive features weren't just functional, they were beautiful. Like me, they refused to be hidden away. "I'm thinking about the guest suite," I said slowly. "The one we never finished, the one that's still bare concrete and exposed pipes. Trinity, they always treated me like I was barely more than furniture. Maybe it's time they learned what that feels like." My phone lit up with a text from Livia. "Please answer Dad's calls. They really need help. Don't be petty." Petty. Like when they skipped my college graduation because Livia had a startup pitch meeting, or when they forgot my surgery date because they were at her app launch party. I turned to Aaron. My decision made. Call Lara. Tell her I need a part-time nurse for 2 new residents. And get me the number for that minimalist furniture store, the one that specialises in institutional settings. "You're really going to let them move in?" "Oh, yes," I smiled, wheeling toward my office where the house blueprints were stored. "But they're about to learn that karma isn't just a concept. Sometimes it's architectural." My phone buzzed one final time. A voicemail from my mother. "Trinity, please, we have nowhere else to go. Your father's health, we need you." Need. Such a powerful word. They never needed me before, not when I needed them. But now they'd learn exactly what need feels like, in stark, sterile, stripped bare detail. I picked up my phone and began to type. "Dear Dad, I'll help. Move-in date is next week. But remember, my house, my rules, just like you always taught me. Send. Let the lessons begin." "So what exactly was Leave It supposed to do?" Aaron asked, scrolling through the app's defunct website. We were taking a break from planning the guest suite renovation, surrounded by blueprints and material samples. "Oh, you'll love this." I pulled up the promotional video on my tablet. "Watch." Livia's face filled the screen, all perfect makeup and practiced sincerity. "Life is hard, but with Live It, you can transform negative thoughts into positive affirmations. Just speak your worries into the app, and our AI will generate personalized mantras to help you overcome any obstacle." Aaron snorted coffee through his nose. "Any obstacle? Like maybe parents who drain your college fund." "Shh, wait for the best part." Livia's voice continued, syrupy sweet. "For just $9.99 a month, you can access our premium features, including daily motivation alerts and our exclusive gratitude journal function." $75,000, I said, closing the video. That's what they gave her. My entire future invested in an app that basically just spat out fortune cookie messages. And now they're broke? Aaron started gathering up the renovation plans. According to public records, they mortgaged their house to keep the company afloat. Then Dad's diagnosis came. I wheeled over to my desk, pulling up the email I'd received from their family doctor, an old connection who still remembered me. Early onset Parkinson's. Mum's recovering from spinal surgery. They can't afford their medical bills, let alone their mortgage. And Livia, living with some venture capitalist boyfriend. Apparently she's finding herself after the startup failure. I laughed, but it came out hollow. She always was good at finding others to take care of her. My phone buzzed. Another text from my sister. "They're selling the house, Trin. Please talk to them. They need somewhere safe." Safe. Like I felt safe when they left me alone in the hospital after my surgeries, when they missed my physical therapy appointments because Livia had dance recitals. "You know what kills me," I said, staring at the text. "They never once visited this house, never saw what I built. But now it's suddenly good enough for them?" Aaron leaned against my desk. "You don't have to do this." "Actually, I do." I pulled out the old photo I kept in my desk drawer, me at 18, sitting alone at my high school graduation. They need to understand what it feels like. To be an afterthought, to exist in spaces not designed for your comfort. The doorbell rang. It was Lara, the nurse I'd hired, clipboard in hand. "I reviewed their medical files," she said, settling into a chair. "Your father needs specific accommodations for his tremors. Your mother's mobility will be limited during recovery." "I know." I handed her the renovation plans. "That's why the bathroom will have basic safety rails. The beds will be hospital grade. Everything necessary for survival, nothing for comfort." Lara's eyebrows rose slightly as she reviewed the specs. "The room dimensions are minimal, like their love," I said flatly. My phone rang, Dad again. This time I answered. "Trinity?" His voice shook. "Thank God, we need to discuss arrangements. The suite will be ready next week," I cut in. "Nurse Lara will help with basic care. You'll have a bed, bathroom and microwave." "But that's all. That's all you need, isn't it? Just the basics. Anything more would be unrealistic, given your condition." The silence on the other end was deafening. Finally he spoke. "We're your parents, Trinity." "Are you? Funny, I remember you telling the country club you had one healthy child. I remember Mum saying a dog was worth more love than me because at least it could walk." My voice remained steady. "Parents are supposed to invest in their children's futures. You invested in an app." "That was business," he protested weakly. "No, Dad, that was a choice. And now you get to live with it. See you next week." I hung up before he could respond. Aaron and Lara were staring at me. "What?" I asked. "Nothing," Aaron said, but his eyes were proud. "Just wondering if we should frame that college fund withdrawal slip somewhere in their room." "Don't tempt me," I turned to Lara. "They arrive Tuesday. Everything needs to be ready, stark, sterile, and stripped of comfort, like living in an insurance photo." "Understood." Lara gathered her papers. "And Trinity, for what it's worth, I've seen a lot of family caregiving situations. Most people would just say no." "This isn't caregiving," I corrected her, wheeling toward the window. "This is education. They're about to learn exactly what it feels like when someone decides your comfort doesn't matter." After they left, I sat in my beautiful living room, surrounded by the adaptive luxury I'd built for myself. Soon, my parents would sleep on thin mattresses behind bare walls, while I enjoyed the home they said I'd never have. They were going to get exactly what they thought I was worth, not a penny more. "The walls need to be beige," I told the painters. "Not cream, not off-white. Industrial beige, like a DMV waiting room." The guest suite transformation was nearly complete. What was once meant to be a warm, welcoming space had become a masterpiece of discomfort, all while remaining perfectly legal and AIDA compliant. Lara walked through making notes. "The hospital beds arrived this morning. Basic linens, no decorative pillows. The fluorescent lighting is intense." "Good." I wheeled around the space, checking every detail. "How's the bathroom?" "Safety rails installed, basic shower chair. The mirror," she hesitated, "is positioned just slightly too high for comfortable wheelchair use," I finished. "Like every mirror in every house I visited growing up." Aaron appeared in the doorway carrying a box. "Look what I found in storage. Your old physical therapy schedules, the ones with all the missed appointments marked in red." "Perfect." I took them, already planning where to display them, right next to their beds. The sound of a car pulling up made us all pause. Through the window I watched Livia step out of her Tesla, designer sunglasses hiding half her face. "Incoming," Aaron muttered. I met her at the door before she could ring the bell. "You're early." "Jesus, Trinity." She pushed past me into the house. "I had to see this set up for myself. They're our parents, not prisoners." "Follow me." I led her to the suite, watching her face as she took in every deliberately austere detail. "This is cruel," she said, running her hand along the bare concrete wall. "Where are the windows?" "Covered, like my future was when you took my college fund." "That again? It was business." And anyway, the app would have succeeded if what? I cut in. If the market understood your vision, if people actually wanted to pay $10 a month for automated positive thinking. Face it, Livia, you failed, and you took my future down with you. She spun around, finger pointed. At least I tried to make something of myself, while you just sat there. Careful, Aaron warned from the doorway, his voice low. Livia caught herself, but the damage was done. I wheeled closer, my voice deadly calm. Just sat there. I built a consulting empire while you played entrepreneur with my money. I designed this house while you designed emoji affirmations. The only thing I've been sitting on is this revenge. They're sick, she pleaded. Dad can barely hold a cup some days. Really? The tremors must make it hard to function, to feel normal, to be independent. Imagine that. Lara cleared her throat. The medication schedule is posted by the beds. Basic care will be provided twice daily. Basic care, Livia exploded. They need more than basic care. They need their daughter. No, I said quietly. They need karma, and she's finally home. A text alert chimed, the security company letting me know my parents' car had just turned onto my street. Perfect timing, I said, wheeling toward my private wing. Aaron, show them in. Lara, begin the intake process. Livia, you can stay or go. Like always, it's your choice. Trinity, wait, but I was already gone, leaving them to handle the arrival. Through the security cameras, I watched my father struggle out of their old Volvo, his hands shaking as he gripped his cane. My mother moved slowly, her back brace visible under her shirt. They looked smaller somehow, older, more fragile. Good. Aaron led them inside while Lara explained the setup. Their faces fell as they entered the suite, eyes scanning the institutional furniture, the bare walls, the covered windows. But where are the rest of the rooms? My mother asked. This is your space, Lara explained professionally. The main house is Miss Trinity's private area. We can't live like this, my father protested. Actually, you can, Aaron said. Just like Trinity lived with what you gave her. Funny how that works. I watched them sink onto their separate beds, the reality of their situation finally hitting home. My mother began to cry. My father stared at the physical therapy schedules on the wall, his hands trembling more violently. Livia stood in the doorway, looking lost. This isn't right, she whispered. No, I agreed through the intercom, making them all jump. It's not right. It wasn't right when they abandoned me at hospitals. It wasn't right when they stole my future. It wasn't right when they treated me like a burden instead of a daughter. But here we are. I switched off the camera feed and wheeled to my sunroom, my sanctuary. Through the glass ceiling, I watched clouds drift past, remembering all the times I dreamed of this moment. Revenge wasn't supposed to feel this heavy, this necessary, this just. But as I heard my mother's muffled sobs echo through the walls, I smiled. Sometimes justice comes with tears. Sometimes karma needs architects. And sometimes daughters need to teach their parents how to live with what they're given. Day 3 of my parents' stay, and the walls were already closing in. I could hear my mother's voice through the monitoring system, thin and desperate. William, I can't sleep with that fluorescent light. It never turns off. The nurse said it's for safety, my father replied, because of my condition. Just like the lights they'd leave on in my room, claiming it was for my own good. Even when I begged for darkness, Lara's morning report sat on my desk. Patient W experiencing increased tremors due to stress. Patient K requesting additional pain medication, denied per schedule. How are they adapting? I asked when she arrived for the afternoon check. Your father spent an hour trying to adjust his bed away from the blank wall. Your mother keeps asking about window access. Lara's face remained professional, but her eyes held understanding. They're not used to being uncomfortable. No, I agreed. They're used to making others uncomfortable. The intercom crackled. My mother's voice, Trinity, please, can we talk? I pressed the response button. Nurse Lara is available for all necessary communication. We're your parents. Really? I have some medical bills from 2018 that suggest otherwise. Silence, then soft crying. I wheeled away from the intercom toward my office where Aaron was working. Your sister called, he said without looking up, 3 times. Did she mention how her boyfriend's yacht trip is going? Actually, she's living in his pool house now. Apparently the relationship is complicated. I laughed. Everything's complicated when you run out of other people's money. My phone buzzed. A text from Livia. Mum's crying every night. Dad can barely eat. Is this what you wanted? I typed back. Remember when Mom said she loved the dog more than me because it could walk? Karma's a better trainer than any app. The response was immediate. You're being cruel. No, I replied. I'm being educational. A crash from the guest suite interrupted our exchange. Through the security feed, I watched my father struggling to pick up a fallen water glass, his trembling hands making the task impossible. Need help? I asked through the intercom. Please, he whispered. Interesting. I needed help too, once, at my college orientation. Remember that day? Oh, wait, you were at Livia's app investor meeting. The glass stayed on the floor. Later that evening, I heard my mother on the phone with her sister. It's like a prison, Margaret. Our own daughter. I don't understand how she could... I pressed the intercom. Funny, I said the same thing about parents who drain their disabled daughter's college fund. Life's full of mysteries. The call ended abruptly. Aaron found me in the sunroom, staring at the stars through my glass ceiling. You okay? Did you know they used to lock my wheelchair in the garage when company came? Said it ruined the house's aesthetic. I turned to face him. Now they're the ones hidden away. Poetic, isn't it? A notification popped up on my phone. A direct deposit alert. My consulting firm had just landed another major contract. Should we tell them, Aaron asked, about how successful you've become? They'll figure it out. Every time they hear my heels clicking on marble floors, they can't access. Every time they smell gourmet meals, they can't share. I smiled. Success is best served in small, painful portions. The night brought more tears from my mother's room. Through the cameras, I watched her pace their small space, touching the walls like they might give way if she pressed hard enough. My father sat on his bed, staring at the physical therapy schedules. Catherine, he said suddenly, do you remember this date, July 15th? What about it? It was Trinity's spinal surgery. We were at Livia's product launch. We sent flowers, my mother said weakly. I pressed the intercom. Actually, you didn't, but the night nurse brought me a vending machine candy bar. It was more than you managed. The silence that followed was heavy enough to crack concrete. A new text from Livia lit up my phone. They made mistakes. We all did. But this punishment... I cut her off mid-message. Isn't punishment. It's perspective. They're getting exactly what they gave. The bare minimum. The essential care. The technical fulfillment of obligation without the warmth of love. Sound familiar? You're better than this, she wrote back. No, I replied. I'm exactly what they made me. And now they get to live in the house that indifference built. I wheeled through my beautiful home, past the adaptive kitchen where I cooked gourmet meals, past the custom office where I built my empire, past all the success they said I'd never have. From their suite, I heard my mother's voice, small and broken. Trinity, please, we understand now. I pressed the intercom one last time. No, Mom, you're just beginning to understand. Sleep well, the lights stay on. Then I turned off the monitor and wheeled away, leaving them to their education in empathy. The sound of my front door slamming echoed through the house like a gunshot. I didn't need the security feed to know who it was. Livia's designer heels clicked against my marble floors like angry exclamation points. "Where are you?" she shouted. "We need to talk, now." I met her in the kitchen, where I was preparing my morning smoothie. "Indoor voice, Liv. This isn't one of your start-up pitches. Have you seen them?" She threw her bag onto my counter. "Actually seen them. Dad can barely hold a fork. Mum hasn't slept in days." "I've seen everything." I gestured to my monitoring tablet, including Mum's little prayer session where she asked God why she was cursed with a broken daughter. That was yesterday, around 3 p.m. "You're recording them?" Like they recorded my therapy sessions to prove I wasn't trying hard enough to walk. I took a sip of my smoothie. "Want a tour of what they're missing?" Without waiting for an answer, I led her through my house, past the state-of-the-art adaptive kitchen, through the voice-controlled entertainment room, into my home office with its wall of industry awards. "This is what their investment could have built," I said, watching her face. "Instead, they bought your affirmation app. How many downloads did it get before failing?" 100, 2. 93, she whispered. "But that's not..." 93 people paid $10 to have a computer tell them they matter. Meanwhile, my consulting firm just signed a $1 million contract to make Fortune 500 companies accessible to everyone. I wheeled closer. "You got my legs while I got your pity. How's that working out for everyone?" "You're better than this," she tried again. "This revenge is exactly what I earned, what I built, what I designed, down to the last uncomfortable detail." Aaron appeared in the doorway. "Everything okay in here?" I heard shouting. "Just giving my sister a tour," I said sweetly, showing her what real success looks like without stealing someone else's future. Livia's face reddened. "You want to talk about stealing? How about stealing our parents' dignity, their comfort, their what?" I cut in. "Their ability to move freely, their independence, their sense of worth. Welcome to my childhood, sis. How does it feel from the other side? They're sick. They're experiencing consequences. There's a difference." I wheeled to a locked door, the one leading to my private sunroom. "Want to see what they could have had?" I pressed my code into the keypad. The door swung open to reveal a stunning space filled with natural light, adaptive furniture, and every comfort imaginable. A paradise of accessibility and luxury. "This," I said quietly, "was meant for family, when I thought I had one." Livia stood speechless, taking in the contrast between this room and our parents' suite. "You know what Mom told her friends at the country club?" I continued. "That they had one healthy child. One. Like I didn't exist. Like I was a shadow they had to explain away." "I didn't know," she whispered. "Of course you didn't. You were too busy being perfect, being whole, being worth investing in." The intercom crackled. My father's voice. "Livia, is that you?" I pressed the response button. "Family meeting in progress, Dad. Nurse Lara will be there for your afternoon check soon." "Please," he began, but I cut the feed. "You're torturing them," Livia said. "No, I'm teaching them. Every bare wall, every sleepless night, every moment of discomfort, it's all carefully designed, like they designed my isolation." Aaron cleared his throat. "Trinity, maybe what?" I spun to face him. "Maybe I should forgive them, like they forgave my body for betraying their perfect family image, like they forgave me for needing help, for needing love, for needing anything." The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Finally, Livia spoke. "They told people they had one healthy child. Among other things, want to hear about the dog comment, or maybe how they explained away my empty seat at your graduation dinner." She sank into a chair, her perfect posture crumbling. "I never knew. I was so focused on my dreams, my future. My money," I added helpfully. "I'll pay you back," she said quickly. "Once I get back on my feet, keep it." I wheeled to the sunroom door. "Consider it the price of this education. Now, If you'll excuse me, I have a video call with actual paying clients." As I closed the door, I heard her last whispered words. "What have we done?" I smiled, remembering all the times I'd asked myself the same question. The difference was, I knew exactly what I was doing, and I wasn't done yet. "Your father had another episode last night," Lara reported, handing me her tablet. The tremors were severe enough that he couldn't take his medication without assistance. I scrolled through the night's logs. "And my mother?" "Asked for sleeping pills again. When I refused, she spent 3 hours sitting in the hallway crying. Through the monitors, I watch them now. My father struggling to button his shirt. My mother staring at the blank wall like it might suddenly sprout windows. "You're a toxic daughter," my father had shouted yesterday, his frustration finally boiling over. "A vindictive, cruel—" I'd cut the intercom before he could finish. Cruel was watching your child struggle alone. Toxic was choosing another child's dreams over your first child's needs. Aaron walked in with coffee and a concerned expression. "The assisted living facility called. They have 2 rooms available next month." "Perfect timing," I said, taking the coffee. "This lesson's almost learned." A notification popped up on my phone. An email from my mother's sister. "What you're doing is inhuman. They're your parents." I typed back, "Funny how family obligations only matter when they need something from me." The morning passed in a blur of work calls and project reviews. My consulting firm was expanding, our client list growing. Success, it turned out, was the best revenge. Around noon, Lara's voice came through my office intercom. "Trinity, your mother's asking for you. She seems different." I switched to the security feed. My mother sat on her bed, holding an old photograph I hadn't noticed her bringing. Even through the grainy footage, I recognized it. My 10th birthday, the last one before they stopped celebrating them. "I need to visit someone," I told Aaron, grabbing my keys. The cemetery was quiet this time of day. I wheeled up to Rosalie's grave, laying a single rose against the stone. My old teacher, the only one who saw past my wheelchair to the mind behind it. "You were right," I said to the granite marker, "about building a life they couldn't touch, about making them wish they could. Success isn't just about proving them wrong," Rosalie had told me once. "It's about proving yourself right." When I returned home, Lara met me at the door. "Your mother's been asking for her medication early, says the pain is worse." "Stick to the schedule," I replied. "Pain needs time to teach its lessons." But something felt different. The air in the house was heavier, charged with an emotion I couldn't name. Late that night, unable to sleep, I wheeled silently through my dark house. As I passed their suite, I heard my mother's voice, thin and broken. "Do you remember her first wheelchair, William? The little pink one?" "Catherine, don't—" "She decorated it with stickers, made it pretty. While we were so focused on fixing her, we never saw how she was fixing herself." I stopped listening. "We failed her," my father's voice cracked. "Not the other way around." "I keep thinking about that dog comment I made," my mother whispered. "How could I? My own daughter." "We chose wrong," he replied. "Every time we chose wrong." I heard movement, then my mother's voice again. "I need to tell her, now. I don't care what time it is." The door opened. My mother stepped into the hallway, freezing when she saw me there. "Trinity," she breathed. "Looking for something, Mom? More comfort? More medication? More chances?" She sank to the floor, eye level with my chair for the first time in years. "No, just you. I need you to know—" "What? That you're sorry? That you understand now? That living in a bare room with minimal comfort is somehow enlightening? That we never deserved you," she whispered. "Not then, not now, not ever." The words hung between us like smoke. "You win," she continued, tears falling freely. "We see it now. What we did, what we were, what we lost. I wheeled closer, looking down at the woman who had looked down on me for so long. This was never about winning, Mom. It was about learning. Please, she reached for my hand. I pulled back. Nurse Lara will take you back to your room, I said, pressing the call button. Tomorrow we'll discuss your transfer to assisted living. This lesson's finished. Trinity, good night, Mom. The lights stay on, like always. As Lara led my mother back to her room, I heard her last whispered words. We never saw your light. We only saw our shadows. I wheeled to my sunroom, where the moon painted patterns on my floor. Tomorrow I'd make the arrangements, sign the papers, end this chapter. But tonight I sat in my victory, tasting its bittersweet flavour. Sometimes winning feels exactly like losing. Sometimes justice wears the face of grief. And sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones we teach ourselves. The assisted living facility paperwork sat on my desk like a final exam. One signature and this would all be over. But first we needed to talk, really talk. Bring them to the living room, I told Lara. It's time. My parents entered slowly, cautiously, like wounded animals. This was their first time seeing the main house since moving in. My mother's eyes darted around, taking in every beautiful, accessible detail. My father's hands trembled more than usual. Sit, I said, gesturing to the couch. They sank down together, looking small against the expensive upholstery. Before you go to assisted living, we're going to have the conversation you've avoided for 29 years. I positioned my chair directly in front of them. Let's start with the college fund. Trinity, my father began. No, I talk, you listen. I pulled out a folder. Here's the withdrawal slip, $75,000, my future converted into startup capital for an app that failed in 6 months. Want to explain that decision? My mother's hands twisted in her lap. We thought Livia's idea seemed so promising. More promising than your disabled daughter's education, than her independence, than her worth. We were wrong, my father whispered. Wrong doesn't cover it, Dad. You can't unbuild a wheelchair with a whisper. Aaron appeared in the doorway, watching silently. He'd seen me practice this speech a dozen times, but this was the real performance. Every time I needed you, you chose her, I continued. Every surgery, every therapy session, every milestone, you were absent. Do you know who held my hand? After operations, nurses, strangers, because my parents were too busy attending pitch meetings. We thought we were investing in the future, my father protested weakly. No, you were betting against mine, because a broken daughter wasn't worth betting on, was she, Mom? My mother flinched. I never meant... You meant every word, every absence, every time you told your friends you had one healthy child, every time you locked my wheelchair away when company came, every time you chose her dreams over my needs. Please, my mother sobbed, we understand now. Do you? Do you understand what it's like to be treated like furniture, to be stored away when inconvenient, to be told your existence is a burden? I wheeled closer, because that's what your suite was designed to teach you. Every bare wall, every sleepless night, every moment of discomfort, it was all carefully architected, like you architected my isolation. My father's tremors increased. We failed you. Spectacularly, I agreed. And now you know exactly how it feels. To be dependent on others' mercy. To live in spaces not designed for your comfort. To be an afterthought in your own home. What can we do? My mother asked. How can we ever... You can't. That's the point. You can't undo years of neglect with an apology. You can't rebuild trust with regret. You can't fix what you broke just because you finally feel broken too. I pulled out the assisted living brochures. Tomorrow you'll move to Golden Meadows. Basic care, shared rooms, minimal amenities. It's what you can afford now after investing everything in Livia's dream. And us? My father asked quietly. Will we ever... Have a relationship? That depends on what you build from here. But understand this. I'm not the daughter you ignored anymore. I'm not the future you bet against. I'm the success you never saw coming. I handed them the facility paperwork. Sign. As they scribbled their names, my mother's tears fell on the pages. We loved you, she whispered. Badly, wrongly, but we did. Love isn't supposed to come with conditions, I replied. Or accessibility issues. Aaron stepped forward. The transport will be here at 9 tomorrow. My parents stood shakily. Before they turned to leave, my father spoke. Your house, it's beautiful. Everything we said you couldn't have. I know, I cut him off. That's why you're leaving it. Lara appeared to escort them back to their suite. At the doorway, my mother turned. Trinity, thank you. For what? For teaching us, even if we didn't deserve the lesson. After they were gone, Aaron sat beside me. You okay? I stared at the signed papers at the end of this chapter. They say revenge doesn't heal anything, but sometimes it builds something new, something stronger. Like this house? Like me. Tomorrow they'd leave for Golden Meadows. Tomorrow their suite would be emptied, repainted, repurposed. Tomorrow this lesson would end. But tonight, in this moment, I felt the weight of victory, heavy, sharp, and necessary as surgery. Sometimes healing looks like letting go. Sometimes justice wears the face of goodbye. And sometimes the strongest thing you can build is the courage to close a door. The guest suite stood empty, its bare walls holding echoes of lessons learned. I wheeled through it one last time, Lara beside me with her final report. Their intake at Golden Meadows is complete, she said. Basic shared room, standard care package. Any issues? Your mother cried. Your father stayed silent. Livia wasn't there. I nodded, running my hand along the wall where the physical therapy schedules had hung. Keep monitoring their care, but discreetly. I'm still paying their bills, after all. Anonymously, Lara reminded me with a small smile. Some kinds of karma need witnesses, I said. Others work better in silence. My phone buzzed. An email from Livia. I get it now. I really do. Not just about them, but about me too. About what I took from you. I'm starting therapy next week. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my laptop and continued working on my book. Designed for Dignity, Architecture as Accountability. Aaron found me there, still typing. The contractors want to know what to do with this space. I looked around the room that had served its purpose so perfectly. Turn it into a training centre for companies learning about accessibility. Let's build something useful from all this concrete and karma. Speaking of building, he handed me an envelope. This came while you were at the facility. Inside was a custom award, clearly commissioned by my team. The inscription read, Builder of Justice for constructing paths others didn't think possible. They understand, Aaron said quietly. All of us who watched you build this, your business, your home, your reckoning. We understand. The intercom buzzed. The front desk announced my next client meeting, a major tech company finally realizing accessibility wasn't optional. Ready to change more minds? Aaron asked. Always. I wheeled toward my office, passing the sunroom I'd once dreamed of sharing. You know what Rosalie told me before she died? Build a life they can't touch, then make them wish they could. I thought it was about revenge. Wasn't it? No. I stopped at my desk, looking at the photos there, me at business summits, receiving awards, cutting ribbons at accessible building launches. It was about reconstruction, taking broken pieces and building something stronger. My phone lit up with a text from the Golden Meadows nurse. Your father asked about wheelchair-accessible activities today. Your mother joined the family support group. Small steps, I murmured. On newly built paths, Aaron added. The client meeting went brilliantly. Another contract signed, another building that would welcome everyone. As I reviewed the papers, a notification popped up. Someone had finally responded to my mother's old country club post about having one healthy child. My reply was simple. She had 2 children. One learned to build despite barriers. The other built barriers despite learning. Guess which one succeeded? The responses flooded in, but I closed the app. Some conversations don't need audiences. Instead, I wheeled to my window wall, watching the sunset paint my accessible paradise in shades of victory. On my desk, the book manuscript grew longer, each chapter a blueprint for accountability. "You're not going to visit them?" Lara asked, dropping off her final paperwork. "No." I signed her last check, adding a generous bonus. Some distances need to stay measured. Some lessons need to settle. And Livia has her own rebuilding to do. After Lara left, I sat in my sunroom, surrounded by the luxury of independence, the space my parents never got to enjoy, the home they said I'd never have. Aaron brought coffee, settling into his usual chair. "So, what now?" "Now," I gestured to my laptop, to the contracts, to the book outline. "We keep building, not just ramps and rails, but understanding. Not just accessible spaces, but accountability. And forgiveness." I thought about my parents in their shared room, learning late lessons about worth and weakness, about Livia in therapy, finally facing her own foundation cracks. "Forgiveness is optional," I said finally. "Closure is constructed. And karma isn't blind. It has blueprints." The sun set fully, leaving me in the soft glow of my designed world. Tomorrow would bring more clients, more buildings, more chances to make space for everyone. But tonight, in my perfectly constructed revenge-turned-redemption, I understood what Rosalie meant. The strongest structures aren't built on forgiveness or fury. They're built on truth, on consequence, on foundations firm enough to hold both justice and growth. I closed my laptop, wheeled to my kitchen, and began preparing dinner in my accessible paradise. Some victories don't need celebration, some lessons don't need sequels, and some architects build their masterpieces from the blueprints of their scars.
Text message arrived while I was chopping onions for dinner. Unknown number, but the words made my knife slip, nearly taking off my fingertip. "Ask Sarah about July 15th, 1999. Some secrets shouldn't stay buried forever." My name is Lila, and until that moment, I'd been rehearsing how to survive another Friday night dinner with my sister-in-law Sarah. Now, standing in my kitchen with shaking hands, I couldn't stop staring at those words on my phone screen. "Everything okay in there?" Ben called from the living room. "Need any help?" "I'm fine," I answered, quickly wiping my eyes. The onions made a convenient excuse for the tears threatening to spill. "Just fighting with these onions." I heard him chuckle, that warm, familiar sound that usually made everything better. But not tonight. Tonight. Those 12 words on my phone screen had cracked something open inside me, something that had been festering for the past 8 years of marriage into the Emerson family. Sarah. Always Sarah. My husband's older sister, who'd made it her mission to remind me at every opportunity that I wasn't really family. That I didn't belong. That my inability to give Ben children somehow made me less worthy of the Emerson name. I glanced at the clock, 5:45 p.m. We needed to leave in 15 minutes to make it to Harold's house by 6:30. Sarah would already be there, probably arranging the flowers just so, making sure everything was perfect for her weekly performance of devoted daughter and sister. My phone buzzed again. Same number. Ask her about the letters in the attic. She'll know. "Ben," I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. "Can you come here for a second?" He appeared in the doorway, all 6 feet of calm reliability. "What's up?" I held out my phone. "Someone's trying to tell me something about your sister." Ben's forehead creased as he read the messages. July 15th, 1999? That would have been right after her graduation. He handed the phone back, shrugging. Probably just someone trying to cause trouble. You know how Sarah can rub people the wrong way. Oh, I knew. But something about these messages felt different. Specific. Deliberate. Should we ask her about it? I said, watching his face carefully. And start World War III? No thanks. Ben kissed my forehead. Let's just get through dinner. Dad's making his famous pot roast, remember? I nodded, but my mind was already racing ahead to the evening. Harold's house. The attic. The letters. Would Sarah notice if I slipped away during dinner? Would anyone believe me if I found something? We should get going, Ben said, grabbing his keys. You know how Sarah gets if we're late. I followed him to the car, my phone heavy in my pocket. As we backed out of the driveway, another text arrived. Time's running out. She knows you now. My heart skipped. How could Sarah know anything? I hadn't even known until 20 minutes ago. The drive to Harold's house was quiet, Ben humming along to the radio while I watched the familiar streets blur past. 8 years of these Friday dinners. 8 years of Sarah's subtle digs and perfectly timed insults. 8 years of smiling through the pain of her innocent questions about when Ben and I would finally start a proper family. As we pulled up to Harold's Victorian house, I saw Sarah's Mercedes already parked in the driveway. She stood on the porch, arms crossed, watching us arrive. Even from here, I could see her practiced smile, the one that never quite reached her eyes. Ready! Ben squeezed my hand. I nodded, but my phone buzzed one final time. The truth will set you free. But it might destroy her first. Looking up at Sarah's perfectly composed face, I realized something had shifted. For the first time in 8 years, I wasn't walking into her arena as a victim. I was walking in armed with something she didn't want anyone to know. And suddenly, Friday night dinner didn't seem so daunting anymore. Dinner started exactly how I expected, with Sarah's perfectly rehearsed smile and Harold's attempts to keep everyone happy. What I didn't expect was how quickly it would all unravel. Lila, you seem distracted tonight, Sarah said, passing the pot roast. Her voice dripped with artificial concern. Work stress again? It must be so demanding having such a consuming career. I caught the emphasis on consuming. Another dig about my choices, my inability to have children. But tonight something was different. I noticed a slight tremor in her hand as she set down the serving plate, a tightness around her eyes that wasn't usually there. Actually, I received some interesting messages today, I said, watching her face carefully. About July 1999. Crash of Sarah's wine glass hitting the table made everyone jump. Red wine spread across the white tablecloth like blood, but Sarah didn't move to clean it up. Her face had gone pale. Mom, then her 12-year-old touched her arm. Are you okay? I'm fine, Sarah snapped, then immediately softened. I'm sorry, sweetie. Just clumsy tonight. Harold was already up, dabbing at the mess with his napkin. These things happen. Mark, would you grab some club soda from the kitchen? Mark pushed back from the table, looking between his wife and me with narrowed eyes. He'd been quieter than usual tonight, and I wondered if he knew something too. July 1999, Ben mused, helping his father clean up. Wasn't that when you took that trip to Europe, Sarah? Right after graduation. Sarah's laugh was too sharp, too quick. Ancient history. Who can remember that far back? The attic might remember, I said quietly. The room went still. Sarah's knuckles were white around her fresh wine glass. What exactly are you implying, Lila? Before I could answer, 9-year-old Olivia piped up. Can we look in the attic, Grandpa? Please? I love exploring up there. Not tonight, sweetheart, Harold said firmly. It's much too dusty. Besides, some things are better left alone. He gave me a pointed look that made me wonder if he knew more than he let on. Like some people's personal business? Sarah's voice had turned to ice. Speaking of which, Lila, how are those fertility treatments going? Still no luck? Sarah. Mark's warning came from the kitchen doorway. Not now. But Sarah was on a roll, her fear manifesting as cruelty. I'm just concerned. Ben deserves to have children of his own, doesn't he? A real family. Ben's fork clattered against his plate. That's enough, Sarah. Is it? Sarah stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. Because I think it's time we talked about a lot of things. Like why certain people are digging into ancient history instead of facing their own failures. Mom, please stop, Ethan whispered, looking mortified. I stood up too, my heart pounding. You're right, Sarah. Let's talk about failures. Should we start with the letters, or would you prefer to tell everyone yourself? Color drained from her face. What letters? I don't know yet, I admitted. But someone thinks they're important enough to tell me about them. Important enough to shake you up like this. Sarah grabbed her purse. Mark, we're leaving. Kids, get your coats. Running away again? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Like you did in 1999? Sarah froze, one hand on Olivia's shoulder. For a moment, I saw something crack in her perfect facade, not anger this time, but fear. Real, bone-deep fear. Dad, she said, her voice barely a whisper. You promised no one would ever know. Harold set down his napkin with a heavy sigh. I didn't tell her, Sarah. Tell me what? Ben looked between his father and sister. What's going on? But Sarah was already herding her children toward the door, Mark following with a troubled expression. As they left, my phone buzzed again. The message made my blood run cold. Check the loose floorboard under the window. Sarah's not the only one with secrets. Ask Harold about Elizabeth. I looked up to find Harold staring at me, his face ashen. Who, he asked quietly, has been talking to you? The name Elizabeth hung in the air between us, unspoken but somehow changing everything. After Sarah's dramatic exit, Ben insisted we stay to help Harold clean up. But I had other plans. While they cleared the dining room, I slipped upstairs, my heart thundering with each creaking step. The loose floorboard under the window. 20 years of dust coated everything in the attic, but moonlight streaming through the circular window made the spot easy to find. My fingers trembled as I pried up the weathered wood. I wouldn't do that if I were you. I whirled around. Mark stood in the doorway, his silhouette dark against the dim light from the stairs. Shouldn't you be with Sarah? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Sarah's having one of her moments. The kids are with her mother. He stepped into the attic. You know, I've watched you these past 8 years. Taking her jabs, her insults, always being the bigger person. I used to admire that about you. Used to. Until you started poking at things better left buried. He moved closer, and I noticed he was holding something, a manila envelope, yellowed with age. Looking for these? My phone buzzed. Without taking my eyes off Mark, I read the message. Don't trust him. He was there too. What's in the envelope, Mark? Letters. Photos. Proof that some mistakes can't be undone. He sighed heavily. Did you know Sarah was pregnant in 1999? The revelation hit me like a physical blow. What? Not mine, of course. We hadn't met yet. It was someone else's. Someone married. He tapped the envelope against his palm. Harold paid for everything, the trip to Europe, the procedure, the silence. But Elizabeth, she wouldn't stay quiet. Elizabeth, the name from the text message. Who is she? Was, Mark corrected softly. She was the wife. Found out about Sarah and her husband. Threatened to expose everything. He paused, looking at me with something like pity. She died in a car accident 3 months later. Very tragic. Very convenient. Footsteps on the stairs made us both turn. Harold appeared, looking older than I'd ever seen him. "Mark," he said wearily, "that's enough." "Is it?" Mark's laugh was bitter. "Because I've spent 12 years watching my wife destroy herself with guilt while you all pretend nothing happened. And now Lila's getting anonymous texts? Someone knows, Harold. Someone always knows." My phone buzzed again. "Ask about the brake lines." The implications made me feel sick. "Harold, it wasn't supposed to happen like that," Harold whispered. "We just wanted to talk to her, make her understand what exposure would do to everyone involved. Sarah was just a kid who made a mistake." "A mistake?" Mark's voice rose. "A woman died." "No one can prove that," Harold snapped, then caught himself. "Lila, please. Whatever you think you know, I know enough." My voice shook. "Does Ben know any of this?" "Know what?" Ben stood on the stairs, looking between the three of us with growing confusion. Behind him I could see Sarah, her face tear-stained but determined. "Tell him," she said quietly. "Tell him everything, Dad. I'm tired of running." Harold sank onto an old trunk, the weight of 20 years of secrets visible in the slump of his shoulders. "Son, sit down. There's something you need to know about the summer after your sister graduated." "Actually," I interrupted, holding up my phone, "there's something you all need to know." I turned to Sarah, whose face had gone pale again. "The texts aren't just about you. Someone knows everything about Elizabeth, about the accident, about all of it. And they're not going to stay quiet much longer." My phone buzzed one final time that night. "Good girl. Now watch them burn." Looking at their faces, Harold's guilt, Mark's bitterness, Sarah's fear, and Ben's growing horror, I realized I'd gotten exactly what I thought I wanted. Perfect revenge against Sarah, served on a silver platter by an anonymous ally. But as Ben sank onto the stairs, his world visibly crumbling, I wondered if revenge was worth the cost of destroying the family I'd fought so hard to be part of. The real question was, could I stop what I'd set in motion even if I wanted to? Ben hadn't spoken to me since we left his father's house. 3 days of silence, broken only by the sound of him pacing late at night, muttering to himself about brake lines and covered-up pregnancies. I'd created this mess, and now I had no idea how to fix it. My phone lit up with another message. "Time to finish what we started. Elizabeth's daughter wants to meet you." I nearly dropped the phone. Elizabeth had a daughter? Before I could process this, another text arrived with an address and a time. "Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Come alone." "Who keeps texting you?" I jumped. Ben stood in the doorway of our home office, his face haggard from lack of sleep. "I don't know," I admitted. "But they know everything, Ben. About Sarah, about Elizabeth." "Stop." He held up his hand. "Just stop. Do you have any idea what you've done to my family?" "Your family?" The words stung more than I expected. After 8 years, I thought it was our family. Was it? Or were we just your project? Your chance to play detective and get back at Sarah for all those comments about... He caught himself, but the unspoken word hung between us. Infertility. My failure. My phone buzzed again. Ben's jaw tightened. "You should go." "What?" "To your meeting tomorrow. Go meet Elizabeth's daughter. Finish burning down what's left of my family's reputation. It's what you wanted, isn't it?" Before I could answer, his phone rang. Sarah's name flashed on the screen. He answered it, turning away from me. "Sarah, slow down. What do you mean Mark's gone?" His shoulders tensed. "When did he take the kids?" "Have you called Mom's house?" I watched my husband transform into someone else, someone harder, more distant. When he hung up, he wouldn't look at me. "Mark left with the kids," he said flatly. Apparently, he's been gathering evidence for months. Recordings, old documents, photos. He's threatening to go to the police about Elizabeth's accident unless Sarah signs away custody. He wouldn't he? You saw him in the attic. He's been waiting years for this. Ben finally met my eyes. And you gave him the perfect opportunity. My phone lit up again. Ask Ben about the insurance policy. Elizabeth's death made someone very rich. I showed Ben the message. His face went pale. Dad cashed in a life insurance policy, he whispered. A big one. I helped him invest the money when I first started at the firm. I never knew. He sank into a chair. Oh God, what did they do? The doorbell rang, making us both jump. Through the front window, I saw Harold standing on our porch, looking older than ever. Don't, Ben said when I moved to answer it. Please. I can't handle any more revelations tonight. But Harold had a key. We heard the door open, followed by his heavy footsteps. Benjamin? Lila. His voice carried up the stairs. We need to talk. Elizabeth's daughter. She's not just anyone. She's your granddaughter, I finished, the pieces finally clicking into place. Sarah's baby didn't die in Europe, did she? Elizabeth adopted her. Harold's silence was answer enough. Ben made a sound like he'd been punched. That's why Elizabeth threatened to expose everything, I continued, the horrible truth unfolding. Not because of the affair, but because you were trying to take her daughter back. Sarah's daughter. And when she wouldn't give her up. My phone buzzed one final time that night. Now you understand. Tomorrow you'll meet your niece. Choose your next moves carefully. I looked at Ben, saw the devastation in his eyes, and realized I'd gone too far. In my quest for revenge against Sarah, I'd uncovered something far darker than family spite. This wasn't about petty insults anymore. This was about murder, theft, and a child caught in the middle. The question was, what would that child want from us now? Cafe was exactly where the text said it would be, a quiet place on the edge of town, far from prying eyes. I arrived early, watching each person who walked through the door, wondering which one was Elizabeth's daughter. My niece. The thought made my hands shake. A young woman with Sarah's eyes slid into the seat across from me. You must be Aunt Lila. Rachel. The name felt strange on my tongue, this person who had existed in shadows until now. Actually, it's Grace. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Grace Elizabeth Chen. Mom, my real mom, she gave me that name before they killed her. My phone buzzed. Grace pulled out her own phone, showing me the screen. The same message appeared on both. The players are all here. Let the truth come out. You've been sending the texts, I said. Not exactly. She stirred her untouched coffee. Let's just say I have a friend who's very good at uncovering secrets. Like the fact that Harold Emerson took out a life insurance policy on my mother 3 months before her accident. Cafe door chimed. Sarah walked in, stopping dead when she saw us. Her face went white. Right on time, Grace said softly. I told her if she didn't come, I'd go straight to the police. Sarah approached our table like a woman walking to her execution. Grace, please. Sit down, birth mother. Grace's voice could have frozen hell. We're going to have a little family reunion. My phone buzzed again. Watch carefully. Everyone lies. I never wanted any of this, Sarah whispered, sinking into a chair. You have to believe me. The accident wasn't an accident, Grace cut in. Mom was going to expose everything, the affair, the pregnancy, how Harold threatened her to give me up. So they cut her brake lines. Isn't that right, Sarah? Sarah's hands trembled as she reached for her purse. She pulled out an old envelope, weathered and torn at the edges. I kept these. All these years I kept them. Your mother's letters to me, begging me to let her keep you. Telling me what a wonderful baby you were. Stop. Grace's composure cracked slightly. You don't get to play the remorseful mother now. I didn't know what Dad was planning, Sarah continued desperately. I swear, I thought he was just going to talk to her. When I found out what he'd done, you took the money anyway, Grace snapped. Built your perfect life with your perfect family while my mother rotted in the ground. My phone. Ask about Mark? Where is Mark really? I asked Sarah. Did he actually take the kids, or is that just another lie? Sarah's face crumpled. He's gathering evidence. Against Dad. Against all of us. He says he's doing it for the children. To protect them from our family's poison. Smart man, Grace said coldly. Smarter than my father was. Tell me, does your precious daddy know I'm his granddaughter twice over? That his son was the married man you seduced? The revelation hit me like a physical blow. I looked at Sarah, saw the truth in her face. Ben's brother, the one who died in a hunting accident the same year Sarah went to Europe. My phone buzzed one last time. Now you know everything. What will you do with the truth? Grace stood, dropping a thick manila envelope on the table. Police reports, insurance documents, Mom's letters, everything they need to reopen the case. Choice is yours, Aunt Lila. You wanted revenge against Sarah? Here it is. Just remember, burning down this house will scorch everyone inside it. She walked out, leaving Sarah and me staring at the envelope between us. 20 years of secrets, lies, and murder, all wrapped up in manila paper. What are you going to do? Sarah whispered. I thought about Ben, about Harold, about the family I'd wanted so desperately to be part of. About revenge and justice and the thin line between them. My hand hovered over the envelope as my phone screen lit up with one final message. Choose wisely. Some fires can't be put out. I took the envelope. Sarah didn't try to stop me. The weight of it in my hands felt like a loaded gun, one pointed at everyone I loved. Back home, Ben was waiting. One look at my face and he knew. You met her, didn't you? Elizabeth's daughter. Your niece, I said quietly. Your brother's daughter. He sank onto the couch, head in his hands. James. Of course it was James. His voice cracked. The hunting accident. Dad always said it was strange how the gun just went off. My phone buzzed. Grace, time's up. If you won't do it, I will. She's going to the police, I told Ben. About Elizabeth's murder, the insurance money, everything. Mark's already gathering evidence. Evidence of what exactly? Harold's voice made us both jump. He stood in our doorway, looking somehow both frail and dangerous. The past should stay buried, Lila. Some truths only destroy. Like the truth about James's accident? The words came out before I could stop them. Harold's face hardened. You have no idea what I've done to protect this family. Protect? Ben stood up. You killed James, didn't you? Your own son. And Elizabeth. All to keep your precious reputation intact. I did what was necessary. Harold's voice was ice. And I'll do it again if I have to. My phone, he's already done it again. Check the news. With trembling fingers, I pulled up the local news website. The headline made my blood freeze. Local businessman Mark Whitaker found dead in apparent suicide. Oh, God. I looked at Harold. What did you do? What I've always done. He pulled out a gun, small, efficient, deadly. Clean up my children's messes. Ben stepped between us. Dad, put the gun down. I can't do that, son. Lila knows too much. Grace knows too much. Sometimes pruning the family tree is the only way to save it. My phone buzzed one last time. Run. I bolted for the back door, hearing Ben struggle with his father behind me. A shot rang out. Something crashed. I didn't look back. Sarah was waiting in her car around the corner, engine running. Get in. Mark. Wasn't suicide. I know. Her eyes were red but determined. He was going to expose everything. About James, Elizabeth, all of it. Dad found out. Another shot echoed from the house. Sarah flinched but didn't move. We have to help Ben, I said. Ben's dead. Grace's voice came from the back seat, making me jump. Just like my mother. Just like my father. Just like Mark. The Emerson family tree is rotted to the core. My phone lit up with a final message, but this time from Harold's number. You should have left well enough alone, Lila. Now I have to finish what I started 20 years ago. Sarah's hands tightened on the wheel. He'll never stop. He'll kill us all to keep his secrets. Then we stop him first, Grace said coldly. I've got everything we need right here. She patted a laptop bag. Every murder, every cover-up, every penny of blood money. One call to my contact at the FBI and it's over. Ben, my voice broke. I couldn't finish the thought. Is alive, Grace said quietly. For now. Dad's taking him to the lake house, where he took my father 20 years ago. Sarah started the car. We have one chance to end this. To save what's left of our family. Family? I laughed bitterly. Is that what we are? We're what's left, Grace said. The survivors. The ones who know the truth. My phone buzzed one final time. Harold again. Come alone to the lake house, Lila. Or Ben joins his brother. I looked at Sarah, then at Grace in the rearview mirror. 3 women bound by secrets, lies, and murder. Each of us had wanted revenge, but now we were fighting for something else. Survival. Drive, I told Sarah. We're ending this tonight. The sun was setting as we headed toward the lake house, toward Harold, toward whatever darkness waited for us there. I'd wanted revenge, but I'd gotten something far more dangerous, the truth. And the truth, I was learning, had teeth. The lake house loomed against the darkening sky, a shadow of my husband's childhood summers turned nightmare. Harold's car sat in the gravel driveway, but the house was dark. Silent. He's waiting for you, Sarah whispered from behind the wheel. Grace checked her phone. FBI's 20 minutes out. You just need to keep him talking. I stepped out of the car, the manila envelope heavy in my hands. The gravel crunched under my feet as I approached the front door. It swung open before I could touch it. Just you, Harold called from inside. Or Ben dies first. I entered the darkness, my eyes struggling to adjust. The smell hit me first, copper and gunpowder. My foot touched something wet. Careful, Harold's voice came from the shadows. Ben's making quite a mess. A lamp clicked on. Ben lay on the floor, blood seeping from his shoulder. His eyes met mine, trying to tell me something. The envelope, Harold said. On the table. I placed it down, keeping my phone hidden in my pocket. It's over, Harold. Mark sent copies of everything to the FBI before you killed him. Killed him? Harold stepped into the light, gun steady in his hand. Mark committed suicide. Just like James did. Just like Elizabeth did. Just like you're going to do. After finding out the truth about your family, I kept my voice steady. About how you murdered your own son to keep his affair with Sarah quiet. I protected this family. The gun shook slightly. James was weak. Elizabeth was a threat. And you? He smiled coldly. You're just another loose end. Like Grace. I saw the flicker of confusion cross his face. Elizabeth's daughter. Sarah's daughter. James's daughter. Your granddaughter twice over. A floorboard creaked behind Harold. He spun around as Grace stepped from the shadows, holding Mark's old service weapon. Hello, grandfather. Impossible, Harold whispered. The baby died in Europe. The baby was given to her real mother, Sarah said, appearing from the kitchen. The woman you murdered to keep your precious secrets. Harold's gun wavered between us. I did everything for this family. You did everything for yourself, Ben spoke, his voice weak but clear. To protect your reputation. Your legacy. A legacy built on blood, Grace said. But it ends tonight. Harold laughed, a broken, hollow sound. You think you can stop me? I've buried better secrets than you. Not this time. I pulled out my phone, showing him the live stream. Everything you just said? It's being broadcast to the FBI task force. The one Mark contacted before you killed him. Sirens wailed in the distance. Harold's face twisted with rage. The gun swung toward me. 2 shots rang out simultaneously. Harold stumbled, red blooming across his chest. Grace stood with her father's gun still raised, tears streaming down her face. That's for my parents. But Harold wasn't finished. As he fell, his finger tightened on the trigger. I felt the bullet's heat pass my ear, heard Sarah's scream, saw Ben lunge despite his wound. The 3rd shot came from Sarah. Harold's gun clattered to the floor as he collapsed. "Dad!" Sarah's voice shook. "Daddy!" Harold looked up at his children, the ones he'd tried to control, the ones he'd broken trying to protect. "I just wanted us to stay together." He was dead before the FBI breached the door. Later, as the paramedics worked on Ben and the FBI took our statements, Grace approached me. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for helping me find the truth." "I wanted revenge," I admitted. "Against Sarah, against all of them. I never imagined that revenge would give you a family." She smiled sadly. "Maybe that's the real legacy Harold left us. The truth that brought us together, even as his lies tore us apart." Sarah joined us, watching the coroner's van drive away. "What happens now?" "Now," I said, "we try to heal. Together." My phone buzzed one final time. "Unknown number. The truth will set you free. But first, it will shatter everything you thought you knew." I deleted the message, watching Ben being loaded into the ambulance. Sometimes I realized the family you find in the ashes of revenge is stronger than the one that burned. 6 months after Harold's death, we gathered at the lake house again. Not to bury secrets this time, but to heal them. Ben's shoulder had healed cleanly. Sarah had moved in with her kids temporarily while dealing with Mark's estate. And Grace had become the bridge none of us expected, connecting the broken pieces of our family with a strength that reminded me of Elizabeth. "The renovations are almost done," Ben said, watching Ethan and Olivia skip stones across the lake. "Grace thinks we should turn it into a summer home for all of us." "All of us?" I looked at him, surprised. "Family is family," Sarah said, joining us on the deck. "Even the parts we tried to forget. She'd changed these past months. The sharp edges had softened, though the grief still showed in quiet moments. Mark's death had been ruled a murder, Harold's actions exposed. The truth had cost us dearly, but the price of secrets had been higher. Grace emerged from the house carrying a box. "Found these in the attic. I think it's time we looked through them properly." Inside were photos, letters, memories Harold had tried to bury. James and Sarah as teenagers. Elizabeth holding baby Grace. Mark's police academy graduation. My wedding to Ben. A family built on love and lies now being rebuilt on truth. "Mom," Olivia picked up a photo of Elizabeth. "Was she my sister too?" Sarah's hands trembled as she took the photo. "No, sweetheart. But she gave us Grace. And that makes her family." "Family's complicated," Ethan said with the wisdom of his 12 years. "But that's okay, right?" "Right," Ben squeezed my hand. "Sometimes the best families are the ones we choose to keep, even after we know all their secrets." My phone buzzed, the first time in months. "Unknown number, the truth set you free." But freedom comes with responsibility. I showed it to Grace. She smiled sadly. "My contact at the FBI. They found more of Dad's files. About other families, other secrets he helped bury." "That's not our burden," Sarah said firmly. "We've paid our price for truth." But had we? I looked at our gathered family, the survivors, the truth seekers, the healers. We'd wanted justice, sought revenge, and found something more complicated: understanding. "Actually," I said slowly, "maybe it is our responsibility." Not to expose the secrets, but to help those families heal. Like we're healing. Ben nodded. The Emerson Foundation for Family Reconciliation, using Dad's blood money to help other families buried under secrets. Mom, Olivia tugged at Sarah's sleeve. Can we have dinner here every Friday? Like before, but better. Sarah looked at me, then at Grace. 20 years of bitterness dissolved in a single moment of clarity. Yes, she said. Better. As the sun set over the lake, we sat down to our first proper family dinner in the renovated house. No secrets, no lies, no hidden agendas. Just people who'd chosen to remain family even after seeing the worst in each other. My phone buzzed one final time. Every ending is just another beginning. Watch for the signs. I deleted the message without sharing it. Some mysteries were better left for another day. Tonight was for healing, for family, for the quiet victory of truth over secrets. Grace raised her glass. To Elizabeth and Mark, she said softly, who gave their lives for the truth. To James, Sarah added, her voice steady, who loved too deeply and paid the price. To Harold, Ben said, surprising us all, who taught us how not to protect a family. I looked around the table, at Ben's quiet strength, Sarah's hard-won wisdom, Grace's fierce loyalty, and the children who would grow up knowing both the cost and value of truth. To us, I said finally, the family we chose to become. As we ate, laughed, and shared stories both painful and healing, I realized that revenge hadn't given me what I wanted. The truth had. And sometimes the truth was both the wound and the medicine, the poison and the cure. The lake house lights reflected on the water like stars, guiding us home to each other, one honest moment at a time.
I never thought I'd find something that would change my life while cleaning out Grandpa's old study, but there it was, a letter that would tear my family apart. My name is Callie, and until last week, I was just the younger daughter trying to make her mark in our family's fashion business. The letter fell from between the pages of his favorite book on textile manufacturing. The paper was yellowed, but his handwriting was unmistakable, bold strokes that commanded attention, just like he did in life. Need help with those boxes? My father called from the doorway. I'm good, I answered, already unfolding the letter with trembling fingers. Just found something interesting. The first line made my heart stop. My dearest Callie, if you're reading this, I've been gone for some time, and certain truths need to come to light. I sank into Grandpa's old leather chair, the one that still smelled faintly of his pipe tobacco. The words blurred as I read about his vision for the company's future, and his explicit wish for me to inherit a controlling share of Winslow Designs. You've got your mother's eye for fashion and your father's business sense, he'd written. But more importantly, you understand what this company means to the people who work here. Renee sees numbers. You see family. My half-sister Renee had been running the company since Grandpa died 3 years ago. She'd made it clear that my role was strictly limited to design work, nothing more. Now I understood why she'd been so adamant about keeping me away from the business side. Callie. My mother's voice made me jump. She stood in the doorway, elegant as always in her tailored blazer. We're ordering lunch. Do you want anything? I quickly folded the letter and slipped it into my pocket. I'll be down in a minute. She lingered, studying my face. You look like you've seen a ghost. Just feeling nostalgic, I lied, forcing a smile. Found some old photos. After she left, I pulled out my phone and took pictures of the letter, my hands still shaking. Through the study's window, I could see Renee in the parking lot, pacing as she talked on her phone. She gestured sharply, her face tight with anger, a familiar sight lately. The sound of approaching footsteps made me look up. Graham from marketing stood in the doorway, his usual easy smile in place. Your sister's on the warpath again. Something about quarterly projections. When isn't she? I tried to sound casual, but my voice cracked slightly. He stepped into the room, lowering his voice. Everything okay? You look like you've just discovered a family secret. If he only knew. I'm fine, I said, standing up quickly. Just dusty in here. Graham's eyes lingered on me for a moment too long, but he didn't push. Well, if you need someone to talk to. Thanks, I cut him off, perhaps too abruptly. My mind was already racing ahead, trying to process what this meant. The letter wasn't just about inheritance. It was proof that Renee had known about this all along. She must have hidden it after Grandpa died. As I watched her through the window, still on her phone, I remembered something else she'd said last week during a board meeting. Sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that protect the family legacy. Now I wondered exactly what she'd meant by that. The letter felt heavy in my pocket as I gathered my things to head downstairs. I had no idea how to handle this information, but one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same between us again. Through the window, I saw Renee end her call and look up at the study. Our eyes met briefly, and for a moment, I could have sworn she knew exactly what I'd found. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. The game was about to begin, whether I was ready or not. I spent 3 days wrestling with what to do about Grandpa's letter before finally working up the courage to show it to my mother. The family conference room felt smaller than usual as I watched her read it, her perfectly manicured fingers gripping the paper tighter with each line. "Where did you find this?" she asked, her voice unnaturally calm. "In Grandpa's old study, while we were clearing it out." I fidgeted with my watch, a nervous habit I thought I'd broken years ago. "Mom, did you know about this?" Before she could answer, the door swung open. Renee strode in, followed by our father. Perfect timing as always. "Know about what?" Renee asked, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. She froze when she saw the letter in Mom's hands. "Family meeting time, I guess," Dad said, closing the door behind him. He must have noticed the tension because he stayed standing, one hand on the back of Mom's chair. Mom handed the letter to Renee, who barely glanced at it before tossing it onto the conference table. "Oh, this old thing? I found it years ago. It's not legally binding." "You knew about it?" The words came out sharper than I intended. "And you didn't think to mention it?" "It was written when you were barely out of college, Callie. Grandpa was getting sentimental in his old age." Renee's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "Besides, the board already approved the current leadership structure." "The board that you personally selected?" I couldn't help myself. Years of being sidelined bubbled to the surface. "Girls," Mom interrupted, but her voice lacked its usual authority. She looked tired, older somehow. Dad cleared his throat. "Maybe we should discuss this with the company lawyers." "There's nothing to discuss," Renee said, checking her phone. "We have more pressing matters. The show contract needs attention, and our Q3 projections." "Stop deflecting," I cut in. "This isn't about contracts or projections. This is about you hiding Grandpa's wishes." Renee's phone clattered onto the table. "His wishes? You want to talk about wishes? I've spent the last decade building this company while you were off finding yourself at design school." "That's not fair," Dad started, but Renee wasn't finished. "Life isn't fair, Dad. I've earned my position. Every late night, every difficult decision, every sacrifice, that's what keeps this company running. Not some sentimental letter." Mom stood up suddenly, her chair scraping against the floor. "Enough. Both of you." She turned to me, her expression softening. "Callie, your grandfather loved you, but Renee's right. The company's current structure is legally established. The betrayal stung worse than I expected. So we're just going to ignore his wishes? We're going to do what's best for the company," Renee said, her composure returning. "Speaking of which, I need to review your latest designs. The board has concerns about the direction of the new collection." I felt the blood drain from my face. My designs were the one thing I thought were safe from her interference. "I haven't heard any concerns," Dad said, frowning. "It's a recent development." Renee gathered her things. "We'll discuss it in tomorrow's meeting. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have calls to make." As she left, I caught a glimpse of Graham through the glass walls, watching our family drama unfold. He quickly looked away, but not before I saw the concern on his face. Mom touched my arm. "Callie, honey, don't." I pulled away, gathering the letter from the table. "I need some air." Outside the conference room, I heard Renee's voice from her office. "Yes, everything's under control. The situation has been handled." I paused, wondering who she was talking to. Through the crack in her door, I could see her pacing, phone pressed to her ear. "No, there won't be any changes to our arrangement. I'll make sure of it." "What arrangement? And with whom?" As I walked away, I realized something. Renee wasn't just protecting her position. She was hiding something bigger, something that made her willing to bury Grandpa's letter. And I was going to find out what it was, even if it meant risking everything I had left in this family. I wasn't supposed to be in the office that late, but I'd fallen behind on my designs after the family meeting drama. The empty building felt different at night. Quieter, but somehow more alive with secrets. That's when I heard voices from the conference room. The intellectual property transfer needs to happen before the end of the quarter. Renee's voice, sharp and clear. Monarch Fashions is getting impatient. I froze outside the door. Monarch Fashions was our biggest competitor. The board won't approve this, a man's voice responded. And your sister's designs are a significant part of the portfolio. My sister won't be an issue. Renee's tone made my blood run cold. Once the deal goes through, she'll have no choice but to accept it. My hand flew to my mouth to stifle a gasp. The design review meeting tomorrow, it wasn't about quality concerns. She was planning to sell my work to our competitors. Someone's here. The man's voice dropped to a whisper. I ducked into the nearby supply closet, heart pounding. Footsteps passed by, then faded. When I finally emerged, shaking, I bumped straight into Graham. Jesus! I yelped, dropping my phone. Sorry. He caught it before it hit the ground. I thought I was the only one still here. His eyes narrowed. Are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. I grabbed his arm. We need to talk. Not here. 20 minutes later, we sat in a quiet corner of a nearby bar. I told him everything, the letter, the family meeting, and what I'd just overheard. Graham ran a hand through his hair. That's corporate espionage. It's illegal. It's worse than that. I pulled out my phone, showing him photos of my latest designs. These aren't just clothes. They're an entirely new manufacturing process. More sustainable, more efficient. It could revolutionize the industry and make Monarch Fashions a fortune. Graham leaned back, whistling low. No wonder they're interested. I need proof. I wrapped my hands around my untouched beer, something concrete to show my parents. Graham was quiet for a moment. I might be able to help. Marketing gets copied on most executive communications. Give me a day or two. Why would you risk helping me? His eyes met mine. Because I've watched you pour your heart into this company while your sister treats it like a personal piggy bank. And maybe because he stopped, cleared his throat. Because it's the right thing to do. My phone buzzed, a text from Renee. Design review moved to 8 a.m. tomorrow. Don't be late. She's moving fast, Graham muttered, reading over my shoulder. She knows I heard something. I stood up, suddenly feeling exposed. I need to get home. Back up my files before. Too late. Graham held up his phone, showing an internal IT notification. System maintenance tonight. All servers down for routine updates. She's deleting my work. The realization hit like a punch to the gut. Everything I've done for the past year. Not everything. Graham pulled out a USB drive. I backed up the design server last week for the marketing presentations. It's not current, but I hugged him before he could finish, surprising us both. When I pulled back, his face was flushed. Thank you, I whispered. Don't thank me yet. He glanced at his phone again. The real question is, what are you going to do tomorrow morning? I thought about Grandpa's letter, about all the years of being pushed aside, about Renee's voice saying, my sister won't be an issue. I'm going to that meeting, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. But first, I need to make a call. To who? Martha Jenkins, our former head accountant. She left suddenly last year after a fight with Renee. I think it's time I found out why. As I left the bar, another text came through. This one from an unknown number. Meet me tomorrow, 7 a.m., Carter's Diner. I have something you need to see. Martha. The game wasn't just about inheritance anymore. It was about survival, and I was done playing by Renee's rules. Carter's Diner looked exactly like the kind of place where secrets get shared over lukewarm coffee. Martha Jenkins sat in a corner booth, her silver hair pulled back in a severe bun, fingers drumming nervously on a thick manila envelope. You look just like your grandfather, she said as I slid into the seat across from her. He had that same look when something wasn't right. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Graham. Meeting delayed to 9 a.m. Renee called emergency board session first. Martha noticed my expression. Bad news. Just buying us some time. I gestured to the envelope. What did you find? She slid it across the table. Financial records from the last 18 months. Renee's been moving money through shell companies. At first, I thought it was just creative accounting, but then I found this. The documents showed a complex web of transactions, all leading to one destination, Monarch Fashions. She's been selling them information for over a year, Martha continued, her voice dropping. Design specifications, manufacturing processes, supplier contracts. But that's not the worst part. My coffee grew cold as Martha explained how Renee had been systematically undermining our company's value, making it ripe for a hostile takeover. My designs weren't just being sold, they were being used as leverage. Why didn't you come forward sooner? Martha's eyes dropped to her coffee. She threatened to expose some personal matters. My grandson's medical bills, some loans I took from the company. I'm not proud of staying quiet. My phone buzzed again. Graham, board meeting getting heated. Your mother looks furious. Where are you? I have to go. I gathered the documents, but Martha caught my wrist. There's something else. She pulled out one last paper. Your grandfather's original will. The one Renee replaced after he died. My hands shook as I read it. The letter I'd found wasn't just a wish. It was legally binding. Renee had committed fraud. Why show me this now? Because yesterday, Renee started the process to dissolve the company entirely. Martha's voice cracked. Your grandfather built this company to last generations. He'd rather see it burn than become what Renee's planning. Outside the diner, Graham was waiting in his car. Your father's looking for you, he said as I got in. The board's voting on something big. I know what they're voting on. I showed him the documents. We need to make copies before. A car horn blared. Through the rearview mirror, I saw a black SUV accelerating toward us. Hold on. Graham swerved, barely avoiding the impact. The SUV scraped past us, then sped away. Was that Dash? Renee's car? I finished, my heart pounding. She must have followed me. Graham pulled into a side street, killing the engine. This isn't just business anymore, Callie. She's desperate. She should be. I pulled out my phone, dialing my father's number. It went straight to voicemail. What's your play? Graham asked softly. I stared at the documents in my lap. Proof of fraud, theft, and betrayal. Everything I needed to destroy my sister's life. But the cost. I can't let her sell the company, I said finally. But this isn't just about revenge anymore. It's about protecting what Grandpa built. What our whole family built. Even if it tears that family apart? Before I could answer, my phone lit up with a text from Renee. Last chance, little sister. Walk away now, or everyone loses everything. Attached was a photo of our mother at her desk, head in her hands, looking broken. The message was clear. This would destroy her. She's trying to manipulate you, Graham said, reading over my shoulder. I know. I took a deep breath, straightening my spine. And she's about to learn that was a mistake. As we pulled back onto the main road toward the office, I realized something. Sometimes protecting your family means fighting them. And I was done playing defense. The board meeting was in 30 minutes. It was time to show Renee exactly what kind of sister she'd created. The boardroom felt like a powder keg when Graham and I arrived. Dad was pacing by the window. Mom sat rigid in her chair, and Renee stood at the head of the table mid-presentation. The screen behind her showed graphs of declining profits, graphs I now knew were manipulated. Nice of you to join us, Renee said, her smile razor-sharp. I was just explaining why selling to Monarch Fashions is our only viable option. I dropped Martha's envelope on the table. Funny, I was about to explain why that's fraud. The room went silent. Dad stopped pacing. Mom's coffee cup froze halfway to her lips. These documents, I continued, spreading them across the table, show exactly how our company's been systematically undermined for the past 18 months. Careful, Callie, Renee warned, but her composure cracked slightly. A board member picked up one of the papers. These transaction records. Are these authentic? Before Renee could respond, the boardroom door opened. Martha Jenkins walked in, followed by two men in suits. They're authentic, Martha said. And these gentlemen from the SEC would like to verify them. Renee's phone clattered to the floor. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I pulled out Grandpa's original will. Just like I understand why you replaced this after he died. Mom stood up so quickly her chair toppled backward. Renee, what is she talking about? She's desperate, Renee snapped. Making wild accusations because she's jealous. Miss Caldwell, one of the SEC agents cut in. We have some questions about certain offshore accounts linked to Monarch fashions. The next few minutes were chaos. Board members arguing, agents asking questions, Dad trying to maintain order. Through it all, I watched my sister's carefully constructed world crumble. Then I saw her hand slip into her bag. Stop her, Graham shouted, but it was too late. Renee pulled out a USB drive and held it up like a weapon. You want to play hardball? Her voice shook. Fine. This drive contains evidence of every questionable decision this company has made for the past 30 years. Including yours, Mother. Mom went pale. You wouldn't dare. Try me. Renee's laugh was hollow. We all go down together. That's what family means, right? I moved toward her slowly. This isn't about family for you. It never was. You don't know anything about family. She jabbed the drive in my direction. You were always the golden child, the one with natural talent. Do you know what it's like living in your shadow? My shadow. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You've controlled everything since Grandpa died. Because I had to. Her voice cracked. Because if I didn't prove I was better than you, they'd all see I was nothing but a mistake. The room went deadly quiet. Mom made a small, wounded sound. Miss Caldwell, the SEC agent said quietly, please hand over the drive. For a moment, I saw something break in my sister's eyes. Then she straightened, smoothing her jacket with trembling hands. You want to know the truth, little sister? She pressed the drive into my palm. Check the personnel files from 30 years ago. See what kind of family we really are. As the agents led her out, she paused at the door. I never wanted to hurt you, Callie. I just couldn't let you win. Not again. The board meeting dissolved into emergency sessions. While lawyers and agents swarmed the building, I sat in Grandpa's old study, staring at the drive in my hands. You don't have to look, Graham said softly from the doorway. Yes, I do. I plugged in the drive. Whatever's in here, it's part of who we are. As the files loaded, I noticed Mom standing in the hallway, watching me with tears in her eyes. She knew what I was about to find. The truth about our family was just a click away, and I wasn't sure any of us were ready for it. The personnel files from 30 years ago lay scattered across Grandpa's desk like pieces of a broken mirror, each one reflecting an ugly truth. Mom stood in the doorway, her silence heavier than any explanation could be. You were his secretary, I said, my voice barely a whisper. Before you married Dad. Before you owned the company. Callie. And Renee. I held up the termination notice with trembling hands. Grandpa tried to force you to get rid of her. Mom's voice cracked. He said it would ruin the company's reputation. His reputation. The pieces clicked together like a grotesque puzzle. Renee wasn't just my half-sister. She was living proof of Grandpa's hypocrisy, of his affair with his young secretary before Mom married Dad. So you took over the company, I continued, the truth burning in my throat. You and Dad, you forced Grandpa out. To protect both of you. Mom stepped into the room, reaching for me, but I backed away. Everything I did was to give you both a chance. Stop. My hands slammed against the desk. Just stop lying. Grandpa's letter, the will, it wasn't about me being talented. It was guilt. He was trying to make amends. A knock at the door made us both jump. Graham stood there, his face grim. They're transferring Renee to custody. She's asking to see you, Callie. The police station's interview room was cold and sterile. Renee sat across from me, her designer suit replaced by standard-issue clothes, her makeup smeared from crying. Now you know, she said quietly, why I could never be good enough. You didn't have to destroy the company, didn't I? Her laugh was bitter. Every time I walked these halls, I saw him. In the portraits, the plaques, the legacy everyone worshipped. The man who wanted me erased. So you decided to erase everything? I decided to build something of my own. She leaned forward. Monarch offered me control of their Asian division. No family strings, no ghosts. Just merit. By stealing our designs? My designs. Your designs. Renee's eyes flashed. Look at the drive again, sister dear. Look at the original sketches from Mom's early days. Your revolutionary techniques? They're all variations of her work. Work she did while carrying me, alone and scared, before your father saved her. The room spun slightly. I gripped the table's edge. We're more alike than you think, Callie, Renee continued. Both living in someone else's shadow. The difference is, I chose to step out of it. By committing fraud? By surviving. She stood up as the guard approached. You can keep the family legacy. I'm done pretending we were ever really family. Later, in Grandpa's study again, I found Graham reviewing the old sketches. He looked up as I entered. She was right, I said before he could speak. Everything I thought was mine, everything I was proud of, it's all built on lies. Callie. No. I started gathering the designs, my hands shaking. The company, the inheritance, all of it. It's poison. I can't. Stop. Graham caught my wrists. You're not thinking clearly, aren't I? I pulled away. My grandfather was a hypocrite who tried to erase his own daughter. My mother built her success on stolen designs. My sister's going to prison. Tell me, Graham, what part of this should I be thinking clearly about? Through the window, I could see the factory floor where generations of workers had built our family's dream. Now it all felt tainted. My phone buzzed, a message from Martha. There's something else you need to see. Something about your grandfather's final days. I almost deleted it. Almost walked away from all of it. But Renee's words echoed in my head. We're more alike than you think. Maybe that was what scared me most of all. What are you going to do? Graham asked softly. I stared at the message, feeling the weight of 3 generations of secrets pressing down on me. I'm going to find out how deep this really goes, I said. Even if it destroys what's left of us. Martha's final revelation hit like a thunderbolt in Grandpa's study. She handed me a worn leather journal, his private diary from his last months alive. He knew what Renee was planning, Martha said quietly. All of it. The Monarch deal. The company's dissolution. He knew because he'd tried the same thing 30 years ago. The diary entries detailed a failed attempt to sell the company to Monarch, back when Mom was just his secretary. He'd wanted to escape the scandal of her pregnancy with Renee. My phone buzzed, a text from Graham. Renee's being released on bail. She's heading to the office. I have to go. I clutched the journal. There's one more conversation we need to have. I found Renee in the design studio, methodically shredding sketches. Mom stood in the doorway, watching helplessly. You knew, I said, holding up the journal. You found this years ago, didn't you? Renee's hands stilled. Like grandfather, like granddaughter. Both of us trying to destroy what we couldn't control. That's not, isn't it? She turned, eyes blazing. You found his letter and immediately used it against me. Just like he tried to use Mom's pregnancy to force her out. Stop it, both of you. Mom's voice cracked like a whip. There's something you need to know. She pulled out an old envelope, yellowed with age. Your grandfather didn't write that inheritance letter to Callie. I did. The room went silent except for the hum of the shredder. What? Renee whispered. I forged it, Mom continued, because I knew what you were planning with Monarch. The same deal they offered your grandfather. The same deal that would have erased both of you from existence. My legs felt weak. Why didn't you just stop her? Because this company was built on secrets and control, Mom said. I wanted you both to choose differently. To be better than we were. Renee laughed, a hollow sound. Better? I was never even good enough. The unwanted child. The living reminder of scandal. You were everything. Mom's shout echoed off the walls. Everything I fought for. Everything I built this company to protect. Both of you were. Then why pit us against each other? I demanded. Because I was afraid. Mom's composure cracked. Afraid you'd both make the same mistakes I did. Choosing power over family. Control over love. Renee moved to the window, staring at the factory floor below. The Monarch deal isn't final yet. It doesn't matter, I said. The SEC. It matters. She turned back, her expression different somehow. Softer. Because I made the same offer to every board member Grandpa tried to sell to 30 years ago. They all kept his secret. And they'll keep ours. Understanding dawned. You weren't trying to destroy the company. I was trying to expose its foundation. She met Mom's eyes. So we could rebuild it. The right way this time. Mom stepped forward, reaching for both of us. For the first time in years, neither of us pulled away. Your grandfather's last entry, Martha said from the doorway, making us all jump. You should read it. I opened the journal to its final page. My greatest regret isn't the choices I made, but the legacy of fear I left my family. May they find the courage to choose love instead of power, truth instead of control. May they build something better than I ever could. Renee touched the page gently. We could, build something better. Together, I asked, hardly daring to hope. She smiled, a real smile this time. Well, you've got the talent, I've got the business sense, and Mom's got the original designs. Seems like a solid foundation. A new foundation, Mom corrected, squeezing our hands. Outside, the factory hummed with life. Generations of work, secrets, and hope woven into its very walls. But inside this room, something else was being built. Something stronger than revenge, more powerful than control. Something like forgiveness. 6 months later, I stood in the renovated design studio, watching workers install the new sign. Winslow and Caldwell Designs. The morning sun caught the letters, casting twin shadows across the floor. Still feels strange, doesn't it? Renee appeared beside me, coffee in hand. She looked different now, softer around the edges, but somehow stronger too. Good strange, I replied, accepting the second cup she offered. The SEC investigation had ended with a settlement and restructuring rather than criminal charges. Thanks partly to Mom's influence and partly to Renee's careful documentation of the board's past indiscretions. Sometimes leverage was better than revenge. The new collection's ready, Renee said, leading me to the workroom. Mom's original designs, your modern techniques. The perfect blend of past and future. The samples hung like promises on the racks, classic silhouettes reimagined, family heritage woven into every stitch. But something else caught my eye, a framed sketch on the wall. Is that Dash? Grandpa's first design, Mom said, entering behind us. From before he owned the factory, when he was just a tailor with dreams. And demons, Renee added quietly. Like all of us. Mom touched the frame gently. But we choose what to do with them. Graham appeared in the doorway, folders in hand. Board's ready for the presentation. Actually, I said, there's something else we need to do first. Later, we stood in the factory's main floor, surrounded by our workers, the real foundation of our family's legacy. Mom took the microphone first. 30 years ago, I made choices out of fear, she began. Today, my daughters are making different choices. Better ones. Renee stepped forward next. Starting today, every employee becomes a shareholder. This company's success should benefit everyone who builds it. The announcement was met with stunned silence, then growing applause. As I watched faces light up with hope and possibility, I felt something shift inside me, the last weight of revenge lifting, replaced by something lighter. There's one more thing, I added, unveiling the plaque we'd prepared. The Martha Jenkins Training Center, offering design and business education to all employees' children. Martha, standing in the crowd, pressed a hand to her mouth. Because family, Renee continued, isn't just about blood. It's about choice. After the celebration, I found myself back in Grandpa's study. My study now, shared with Renee. The old leather chair still held traces of pipe tobacco, but new memories were layering over the old. You know, Graham said from the doorway, when I first met you, I never thought this was how things would end up. Who says this is the end? I smiled, touching the journal on my desk. No longer Grandpa's secret diary, but our family's ongoing story. With blank pages waiting to be filled. Renee appeared behind Graham. Ready for tomorrow's meeting? Monarch's CEO wants to discuss a proper partnership this time. On our terms, I nodded. On family terms, Mom corrected, joining us. As they left, I noticed something tucked into the journal, a photo I'd never seen before. Young Mom, holding baby Renee, with Grandpa standing awkwardly beside them. On the back, in his bold handwriting, some mistakes become our greatest blessings, if we're brave enough to embrace them. I added the photo to our new company timeline. Right beside one taken this morning, Renee and me flanking Mom, all of us smiling real smiles. The factory hummed below, Its rhythm changed but familiar. Like our family, it was being rewoven into something new, something stronger. Not perfect, but authentic. Not flawless, but honest. Through the window, I watched our workers leaving for the day, many still discussing their new stake in the company's future. Some stopped to admire the new sign, its dual names gleaming in the setting sun. Revenge might have started the story, but love, complicated, messy, choosing to be better love, that's what would write its future chapters. And this time we'd write them together.
I never meant to find that email. If I had just minded my own business that afternoon in the graduate lab, maybe none of this would have happened. But there it was. Glowing on the computer screen Gideon had forgotten to lock. Proof that my academic rival wasn't just beating me through hard work and natural talent. My name is Cal, and until that moment I thought I understood how the world worked. Work hard, play fair, earn your success. Simple rules that had gotten me through undergrad and into one of the most prestigious graduate programs in the country. But sometimes life has a way of showing you just how naive you really are. I stood there, frozen, reading the email exchange between Gideon and his mother for the third time. The words seemed to burn themselves into my retinas. "Don't worry about the scholarship committee, darling. Your father has already spoken to Dean Matthews. It's practically yours." My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone and snapped a quick photo of the screen. Part of me felt dirty doing it, like I was no better than them. But I needed proof. I needed to know I wasn't crazy. "Cal? What are you doing at my station?" I nearly jumped out of my skin. Gideon stood in the doorway, his usual perfectly pressed shirt and confident smile suddenly seeming more sinister than charming. I fumbled for an excuse, my heart hammering. "Looking for Professor Grant's latest dataset. Thought you might have it." "Ah." His smile didn't waver, but something flickered in his eyes. "Well, I'm afraid I don't. Perhaps you should check your email." The way he emphasized your made my stomach turn. Did he know I'd seen it? I forced myself to smile back, gathering my things with hands that felt clumsy and obvious. "Right, good idea. Thanks." I was almost to the door when he spoke again. "Oh, and Cal? Best of luck with the Hawthorne Fellowship application. May the best candidate win." I looked back at him, really looked at him for the first time. The golden boy of our department, son of Malcolm and Vivian Hawthorne, whose name just happened to be on the very fellowship we were both competing for. How had I never questioned it before? "Yeah," I managed. "May the best candidate win." Later that evening, I sat in my small apartment, staring at the photo on my phone while Tessa made dinner in our tiny kitchen. The smell of garlic and olive oil filled the air, but I couldn't focus on anything except those damning words. "You've been quiet since you got home," Tessa said, placing a plate of pasta in front of me. "Bad day at the lab?" I looked up at her concerned face, wondering how much to share. Tessa had always been my rock, the voice of reason when I got too caught up in my own head. But this was different. This could change everything. "I found something today. I started, then stopped." How do you tell someone that the system you both believed in is rigged? That all your hard work might mean nothing in the face of privilege and connection? "Cal." She sat down across from me, her fork forgotten. "What is it?" I opened my mouth to tell her, but my phone buzzed with a new email. From Professor Grant. Subject line, urgent, fellowship committee meeting tomorrow. My stomach dropped as I opened it, scanning the contents quickly. The committee was moving up their decision timeline. By this time tomorrow, they would announce the recipient of the Hawthorne Fellowship. I looked at Tessa, then back at my phone with the damning evidence, and realized I had less than 24 hours to decide. Do I expose the truth and risk everything I've worked for, or do I stay quiet and let them win? Pasta grew cold as I sat there, wrestling with a decision that would change not just my future, but the lives of everyone involved. Sometimes karma needs a little push, right? Wrong or right, I had to make a choice. And fast. I barely slept that night, tossing and turning while Tessa's steady breathing beside me felt like a silent reproach. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I needed to talk to Professor Grant before the committee meeting. The early morning campus was quiet as I hurried across the frost-covered quad. Professor Grant's office lights were already on, a warm beacon in the gray dawn. I knocked, clutching my phone with the damning evidence. "Come in, Cal." She looked up from her desk, reading glasses perched on her nose. "I had a feeling you'd be here early." I closed the door behind me, my rehearsed speech dying on my lips as I noticed the tension in her expression. "Professor, I need to show you something." "Before you do," she interrupted, removing her glasses, "sit down. There's something you should know about the Hawthorns." My stomach dropped as I sank into the chair. Professor Grant stood, moving to close the blinds before returning to her desk. "Their influence runs deeper than you imagine," she said quietly. "Malcolm Hawthorne doesn't just fund the fellowship. He funds half the research grants in this department. But if they're manipulating the committee, it's not that simple." She leaned forward. 20 years ago, I watched another brilliant student try to challenge them. She lost everything: her career, her reputation, her future in academia. The weight of her words hung in the air. "Was it you?" She smiled sadly. "The point is, Cal, sometimes fighting isn't the answer. Sometimes we have to choose our battles wisely." My phone buzzed, a text from Tessa. "Did you make a decision? Please talk to me before you do anything." Professor Grant watched me stare at the message. "You haven't told Tessa everything, have you?" She wouldn't understand. The words came out harsher than I intended. "She thinks I'm obsessing over nothing, that I should just focus on our future together." "And what future is that?" Question caught me off guard. Tessa and I had plans, vague outlines of a life together after graduation. But suddenly they felt hollow against the weight of what was happening. "I can't just let them win," I said finally. "No one's asking you to." Professor Grant's voice softened. "But there are different ways to fight, Cal. Ways that don't require sacrificing everything you've built." The committee meeting was in 2 hours. As if reading my thoughts, she added, "Whatever you decide, make sure it's worth the cost." I left her office more confused than when I'd entered. Crossing campus, I spotted Gideon talking to his mother near the science building. Vivian Hawthorne's elegant figure and perfectly coiffed hair seemed out of place among the rushing students. Even from a distance, I could see the tension in Gideon's shoulders as she spoke to him. My phone buzzed again. "Tessa, meeting for coffee?" "Please." I watched Gideon's mother touch his arm in what looked like a gentle gesture, but I saw him flinch. Something about that small reaction made me pause. Was he as trapped as I was beginning to suspect? "Fine," I texted Tessa back. Usual place in 10. She was already waiting when I arrived, 2 coffees on the table. "You look terrible," she said, pushing one toward me. "Thanks." I managed a weak smile. "Cal, whatever you're planning." She reached for my hand. "Just remember what's at stake. Not just for you, but for us." I pulled my hand back, the gesture automatic but immediately regrettable as hurt flashed across her face. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I got a job offer. In Seattle. And I need to know if we're in this together or if you're too focused on fighting battles that aren't yours to fight." The words hit me like a physical blow. Seattle. A job offer. How long had she been sitting on this information? My phone buzzed one final time, an email notification about the committee meeting being moved up another hour. I looked at Tessa, saw the hope and fear warring in her eyes, and realized I was standing at a crossroads. The choice wasn't just about exposing the truth anymore. It was about what kind of person I wanted to be, and what I was willing to lose along the way. The fellowship announcement came exactly as I'd expected. Gideon won. What I hadn't expected was finding him in the empty lab that evening, hands shaking as he deleted files from his computer. "Congratulations," I said from the doorway, watching him jump. "Guess your parents must be proud." He didn't turn around. "What do you want, Cal?" The truth would be nice. I stepped into the lab, letting the door close behind me. Like, why you're destroying evidence right now? His shoulders tensed, but he kept deleting. You don't understand what it's like. Having every choice made for you since birth. Having a legacy to uphold. You're right, I don't. I moved closer, noting the sweat on his neck. But I understand being trapped. Like you were this morning with your mother. That made him stop. You saw that. I saw enough. I pulled out my phone, pulled up the photo of his mother's email. Just like I saw this. He finally turned, his usual polished facade cracking. Delete that. Why? Afraid it might ruin your perfect family image? No, he said quietly. Afraid it might get my mother killed. The words hung in the air between us. Before I could process them, the lab door opened. Malcolm Hawthorne stood there, imposing in his tailored suit. Gideon, he said, his voice carrying that particular tone that wealthy men use when they're used to being obeyed. Your mother's waiting in the car. Father, Now. I watched Gideon's transformation, from a frightened man to the perfect son, happen in real time. It was like watching someone put on a mask. Of course. He gathered his things, avoiding my eyes. Good night, Cal. Malcolm stayed behind after Gideon left, studying me with cold calculation. You seem interested in my family, Mr. Rivers. Just in fairness, sir. Fairness. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Life isn't fair. I thought someone from your background would understand that. My phone felt heavy in my pocket. What's that supposed to mean? It means know your place. He stepped closer. My wife has certain health conditions. The stress of a scandal could be devastating. I trust you understand what I'm saying. The threat was clear, but something else nagged at me. The way Gideon had been deleting files, his father's careful words about his mother. Perfectly, I replied, matching his tone. Good. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and congratulate your girlfriend on the Seattle position. Prestigious firm, I hear. It would be a shame if something changed their mind about her. My blood ran cold. How did he know about Tessa's offer? After he left, I sat at Gideon's computer. Most files were gone, but he'd missed one, a folder labeled Medical Records. Inside was a single document, a psychiatric evaluation for Vivian Hawthorne dated 3 years ago. My phone buzzed. Tessa again. We need to talk about Seattle. Please come home. Another message followed immediately, this one from Professor Grant. My office, first thing tomorrow. Found something you need to see. I stared at the psychiatric report, thinking about Gideon's fear, his father's threats, and the way his mother had made him flinch. The story I thought I knew was shifting, revealing darker currents beneath. My phone buzzed one final time, an unknown number. Storage room B, basement level. 11 p.m. Come alone if you want the full story. Gee. I looked at the time, 10:45 p.m. Tessa was waiting at home. Professor Grant had answers. But something in Gideon's message felt desperate, urgent. Sometimes you have to choose between what's right and what's easy. Sometimes you have to risk everything to understand the truth. I grabbed my jacket and headed for the basement, sending Tessa a quick message. Something came up. Don't wait up. Her response was immediate. If you go down this road, Cal, I don't know if I can follow. I turned off my phone and took the stairs down into the darkness. Sometimes the only way forward is through the shadows, even if it costs you everything you thought you wanted. The basement storage room was dark except for a single fluorescent light flickering overhead. Gideon wasn't alone. Vivian Hawthorne sat perched on a metal filing cabinet, looking oddly elegant among the dusty boxes. I wondered if you'd come, she said, smoothing her silk blouse. Gideon insisted you would. Gideon stood in the corner, his usual confidence replaced by something that looked like resignation. Show him, Mother. She pulled out a manila envelope, her hands trembling slightly. Before you judge us, Mr. Rivers, Perhaps you should understand what you're really fighting against. Inside were newspaper clippings from 20 years ago. As I read, my throat went dry. The Hawthorne family name splashed across headlines about a covered-up death, a psychiatric facility, and a young woman who disappeared after threatening to expose it all. Professor Grant, I whispered, the pieces clicking into place. Smart boy. Vivian's smile was brittle. She was brilliant like you. Thought she could change things. Malcolm made sure she couldn't. Mother, please. Gideon's voice cracked. He doesn't need to. He needs to understand. She snapped, then composed herself. My husband will destroy anyone who threatens this family. Even family itself. My phone buzzed in my pocket, probably Tessa wondering where I was. I ignored it. Why are you showing me this? Because, Vivian stood, suddenly looking every bit her age, I can't watch another bright future get crushed. Not even yours. The storage room door creaked open. Malcolm Hawthorne's shadow filled the doorway. Vivian, what have you done? Change in the room was instant. Vivian shrank back. Gideon stepped forward protectively, and I felt my hands curl into fists. It's over, Father, Gideon said. No more threats. No more control. Malcolm's laugh was cold. Control? I gave you everything. Both of you. He looked at his wife. Remember what happened last time you tried to be brave, dear? I watched Vivian flinch, saw Gideon's jaw clench, and something inside me snapped. I have copies, I lied, holding up my phone. Of everything. The emails, the medical records, these articles. One click and it all goes public. You're bluffing. But Malcolm's confidence wavered. Try me. I stepped forward. How much is your reputation worth, Mr. Hawthorne? Enough to let your son live his own life? To let your wife breathe? The silence stretched thin as a wire. Then Malcolm smiled and my blood ran cold. Interesting play, he said. But while we've been having this lovely chat, the Board of Trustees is reviewing some very concerning allegations about academic misconduct. Your misconduct, Mr. Rivers. My phone buzzed again, Professor Grant this time. Where are you? They're calling an emergency meeting. It's about you. You can't, I started. I already have. Malcolm straightened his tie. The question is, what are you willing to lose? Your career? Your girlfriend's future? All to play hero? Gideon moved suddenly, grabbing the envelope from my hands. No, Father. Question is, what are you willing to lose? He pulled out a lighter, holding it to the papers. Malcolm's eyes widened. You wouldn't dare. Try me. Gideon's hand was steady now. I'm done being afraid. My phone buzzed one final time, Tessa. They're saying you cheated. That you stole research. Cal, what's happening? I looked at Gideon, at Vivian's hopeful expression, at Malcolm's carefully controlled rage. The truth about Professor Grant's disappearance, the years of manipulation and fear, it all came down to this moment. Sometimes justice isn't about winning. Sometimes it's about being willing to lose everything to do what's right. I deleted the photos from my phone. You win, Mr. Hawthorne. I'll resign tomorrow. Cal, no, Gideon protested. But I saw something shift in Malcolm's eyes, surprise, maybe even respect. Sometimes, I said, looking directly at him, the biggest power move is knowing when to walk away. I turned to leave, but Malcolm's voice stopped me. Perhaps we could find another solution. I didn't turn around. Perhaps we could. The game wasn't over. It was just changing rules. I found Tessa packing when I got home. Not just a weekend bag, actual boxes lined our small apartment's walls. She didn't look up when I entered. The Seattle firm called, she said, taping another box shut. They heard about the academic misconduct allegations. Funny how fast news travels. My stomach twisted. Tessa, I can explain. Can you? She finally faced me, her eyes red. Because Professor Grant called too. She said you missed the emergency board meeting. Said you were with the Hawthorns instead. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. My phone buzzed. Gideon, Father's calling an emergency family meeting. Something's wrong. I need to talk. I'm trying to protect everyone, I said, the words sounding hollow even to me. Everyone except us. Tessa picked up a framed photo of us from last summer, then set it face down. I got another offer. A smaller firm in Seattle. Less prestigious, but they don't care about university politics. That's good, right? They need an answer by tomorrow morning. She met my eyes. I'm going, Cal. The question is, are you coming with me? Before I could answer, another text from Gideon. Mother's gone. Father's losing it. Please help. You're looking at your phone again, Tessa said quietly. They're pulling you right back in. It's not that simple. It is that simple. She threw the photo frame, glass shattering against the wall. Choose. Right now. Them or us. My phone kept buzzing. Gideon again. He's talking about Professor Grant. Says he'll fix the problem like last time. I have to go, I said, already backing toward the door. If you walk out right now, I won't be here when you get back. I froze, hand on the doorknob. 20 years ago, Professor Grant disappeared after threatening to expose the Hawthorns. Now she was back in their crosshairs because of me. I'm sorry, I whispered and left. The Hawthorne mansion loomed against the darkening sky. Gideon met me at the side entrance, looking pale. Father's in his study, he said. He's been making calls, talking about loose ends and permanent solutions. I think he's going to hurt her. Where's your mother? Left this afternoon. Said she couldn't watch history repeat itself. He ran a hand through his hair. Cal, I found something in his study while he was out. About what really happened to Professor Grant 20 years ago. Before he could continue, Malcolm's voice boomed from inside. Gideon! Get in here. We shared a look. I'll distract him, Gideon said. His safe behind the Rembrandt combination is Mother's birthday. Whatever you find, make it public. End this. He disappeared inside. I counted to 30, then followed, creeping toward the study. Malcolm's voice drifted through the half-open door. Your mother's always been weak, he was saying. But you, son, you're a Hawthorne. You understand what's necessary. And Professor Grant? Gideon's voice was steady. Is she necessary too? Some loose ends need tying up. Permanently. My phone vibrated. Tessa. Flight leaves at midnight. Please don't make me go alone. Through the door crack, I saw Malcolm open his laptop, typing something. Amazing how many accidents can happen to tenure-track professors, especially on empty campus roads late at night. My hand tightened on my phone. It's midnight. I could still make it. Could still choose a normal life with Tessa, far from all this. Then Malcolm said something that made my blood freeze. Same road where her sister had her accident 20 years ago. Poetic, really. Sister. Professor Grant had a sister who disappeared 20 years ago. Pieces clicked into place with horrifying clarity. I checked the time, 10:45 p.m. Professor Grant would be leaving her office soon, taking that same dark road home. I had just over an hour to choose, save my future with Tessa or save Professor Grant's life. My phone buzzed one final time. Professor Grant, whatever you're planning, stop. Some prices are too high to pay. She had no idea how right she was. Campus roads stretched empty and dark ahead of me as I gunned my ancient Honda toward Professor Grant's office. 11:15 p.m. The same road where her sister died 20 years ago. Where Malcolm planned to tie up loose ends tonight. My phone kept lighting up with messages I couldn't read while driving. Tessa. Gideon. Maybe even Malcolm, realizing I'd slipped away from his study. The midnight flight to Seattle felt like a dream from another life. Professor Grant's car sat alone in the faculty lot. Lights still burned in her office window. I sprinted up the stairs, taking them 2 at a time, only to find her door locked. "Professor!" I pounded on the wood. "You need to leave. Now." No answer. Through the frosted glass, I saw her office was empty. My phone buzzed. "Gideon, father's gone. Can't find him. Be careful." The stairwell door creaked behind me. I spun around to find Professor Grant standing there, keys in hand. "I wondered when you'd show up," she said quietly. "You're just like Sarah was. Never could leave well enough alone. Your sister." The words felt heavy. "She didn't have an accident, did she? Get inside." She unlocked her office, checking the hallway before closing the door. "Malcolm called. Said you and Gideon found something in his safe. Evidence about your sister's death. He's planning to—" "I know what he's planning." She moved to her desk, pulling out a thick file. "What he doesn't know is that I've been planning too. For 20 years. The file contained photos, documents, letters, a timeline of Malcolm's manipulation and violence stretching back decades. "Why didn't you use this before?" "Because last time I tried, Sarah died." Her voice cracked. "I couldn't save her. But maybe I can save you and Gideon." Headlights swept across the window. Car pulling into the lot. "You need to leave," she said, pushing the file into my hands. "Take the back stairs." "I'm not leaving you here." "Cal." She gripped my shoulders. "Sometimes the bravest thing isn't fighting, it's knowing when to walk away." The office door burst open. Malcolm stood there, Gideon behind him with a split lip and wild eyes. "I'm sorry," Gideon gasped. "He made me tell him." Malcolm's laugh cut him off. "Family loyalty. It's amazing what people will do to protect their own." He pulled out a gun. "Though sometimes protection requires sacrifice." "Father, don't," Gideon started forward. The gunshot was deafening in the small office. I felt the impact before I realized what happened, stumbling back against Professor Grant's desk. Warm wetness spread across my shirt. "Cal." Gideon's voice seemed far away. "Unfortunate," Malcolm said calmly. "But necessary. Just like Sarah was necessary." Through blurring vision, I saw Professor Grant reach for something in her desk drawer. Malcolm turned the gun toward her. "Not this time, Lila." My phone buzzed one final time. "Tessa, boarding now. Please tell me you're on your way." The file slipped from my bloody fingers, papers scattering across the floor. 20 years of evidence, of waiting, of planning, all of it useless now. "You see," Malcolm continued, "the problem with justice is it's so messy. Better to keep things in the family." "You're right," Gideon said suddenly. "Family first." He moved with surprising speed, grabbing Malcolm's arm. The gun went off again, shattering the window. They struggled as Professor Grant lunged for her drawer. I tried to help, but my legs wouldn't work. The room tilted sideways as I slid to the floor. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed. "Hold on, Cal." Professor Grant's voice floated above me. "Help is coming." But all I could think about was Tessa, probably taking her seat on that Seattle-bound plane right now, believing I'd chosen revenge over love. Maybe I had. Maybe that's why I was bleeding out on an office floor while Malcolm Hawthorne prepared to tie up his loose ends once and for all. The last thing I saw before everything went dark was Gideon's face, mouthing words I couldn't hear anymore. Then nothing but silence and shadows and the bitter taste of karma coming full circle. The hospital lights were too bright when I opened my eyes. Gideon sat beside my bed, his split lip now stitched, dark circles under his eyes. 3 days, he said before I could ask. Father's in custody. Mother's back. And Professor Grant. He paused. She wants to see you. My chest ached where the bullet had hit. Tessa. Gone. The Seattle flight left on schedule. The words hurt more than the wound. A nurse came in, checked my vitals, then left us alone again. "There's something else," Gideon said, pulling out a worn leather journal. "I found this in Father's safe. It's about why he really killed Sarah Grant." Before he could continue, Malcolm's lawyer appeared in the doorway. "Mr. Rivers." A moment. Gideon stood protectively. "He's not." "It's okay," I managed. "Let him in." The lawyer placed a document on my lap. "Mr. Hawthorne is willing to make a deal. Full confession about Sarah Grant's death, in exchange for your silence about certain family matters." "What matters?" "The real reason behind the Hawthorne Fellowship." He glanced at Gideon. "And its true purpose." Gideon's face went pale. "Father told you?" "He didn't have to." Professor Grant stood in the doorway, holding Malcolm's journal. "I already knew. About Sarah. About the fellowship. About you, Gideon." The lawyer stepped forward. "Professor Grant, Sarah wasn't just my sister," she continued, moving to my bedside. "She was Malcolm's first wife. And Gideon's real mother." The silence that followed felt like another gunshot. "That's impossible," Gideon whispered. "The fellowship wasn't about academic excellence," Professor Grant said. "It was about keeping the truth buried. Every year, Malcolm funded it to ensure his secret stayed safe. Sarah threatened to expose everything, so she had to die." The lawyer cleared his throat. "These allegations are all documented." She held up the journal. Malcolm's own words. Every detail, every manipulation, every lie. Gideon grabbed the journal, flipping through pages frantically. His hands shook as he read. "Mother, Vivian, she knew? She helped cover it up," Professor Grant said softly. "To protect you. To protect the family name." My phone buzzed on the bedside table, a text from Tessa. "Landed in Seattle. Hope you're alive to read this." The lawyer placed another document on my bed. "Mr. Hawthorne anticipated this revelation. He's prepared to make restitution. A considerable sum. Get out." Gideon's voice was ice. "Tell my father, tell Malcolm that his money can't fix this." After the lawyer left, Gideon sank into the chair, still clutching the journal. "All these years. You were my aunt. You knew. I promised Sarah I'd watch over you," Professor Grant said. "Even if I couldn't tell you the truth." My chest throbbed with each heartbeat. "The night Sarah died. She was coming to tell you, wasn't she?" "Yes." Gideon's voice cracked. "According to this, she left me a letter. Father, Malcolm, he hid it in the family vault." Professor Grant touched his shoulder gently. "We can get it. Together." My phone buzzed again. "Tessa, the firm's still willing to take both of us. If you want." "Go," Professor Grant said, reading my expression. "This isn't your fight anymore." But looking at Gideon, my former rival, now something closer to a brother in shared trauma, I knew she was wrong. "Actually," I said, "I think it is." I picked up my phone, typing, "I'm sorry, Tessa, but I can't walk away." "Not this time." Her response came quickly. "I know. You never could. Be safe, Cal." Gideon looked up from the journal, tears in his eyes. "What now?" "Now," Professor Grant said, "we finish what Sarah started. We tell the truth." The truth. Such a simple word for something that had cost so much. But maybe that's what justice really is, not revenge, but the courage to face the truth, no matter the price. "Together," I said, and saw hope flicker in Gideon's eyes for the first time since that night in his father's study. Sometimes family isn't what you're born into. Sometimes it's what you find when everything else falls apart. 6 months later, I stood in the campus courtyard, watching workers remove the Hawthorne name from the fellowship plaque. Beside me, Gideon clutched Sarah's letter, worn from countless readings. "Strange," he said, seeing it come down. The media circus had finally died down. Malcolm's confession about Sarah's death made national headlines, but the real story, the one about family, truth, and the price of silence, that belonged to us alone. Professor Grant's office called, I said. Board approved her as the new department chair. Gideon smiled slightly. Mother would be proud. Both of them. Vivian had left for Europe after the truth came out, leaving behind her own letter for Gideon. Not an apology exactly, but an explanation. Sometimes love makes people do terrible things, thinking they're protecting those they care about. My phone buzzed, a Seattle area code. Tessa. I let it go to voicemail. You should talk to her, Gideon said. Some bridges can't be rebuilt. Maybe. He folded Sarah's letter carefully. Or maybe they just need a different foundation. We walked toward the science building where Professor Grant was waiting. The scholarship committee meeting would start soon, the first one without Malcolm's influence. You're still applying? I asked. Someone should. Gideon straightened his tie, a gesture so familiar it hurt. Might as well be the person whose mother inspired it. The renamed Sarah Grant Fellowship would support students studying ethics and science. A fitting legacy, though not the one Malcolm had intended. Professor Grant met us outside the conference room. Ready? Before Gideon could answer, a familiar figure appeared at the end of the hall. Tessa. I'll catch up, I said quickly. She looked different, more confident maybe. Seattle suited her. Your voicemails, she said. I got them all. I wasn't sure. I'm not staying. She cut me off gently. But I needed to see you. To understand why you chose this over us. I glanced back at Gideon and Professor Grant, now deep in conversation. It wasn't about choosing sides. It was about choosing truth. And was it worth it? Question hung between us like smoke. Behind me, I heard the scholarship committee members arriving, their voices echoing in the hall. I lost you, I said finally. But I found something else. Something I didn't know I was looking for. She smiled sadly. Family. Justice. And yeah, maybe family too. She reached out, squeezed my hand once. Goodbye, Cal. I watched her walk away, feeling lighter somehow. When I joined the others in the conference room, Gideon gave me a questioning look. I'm okay, I said and meant it. Professor Grant stood to address the committee but paused to hand me an envelope. Inside was a photo I'd never seen, Sarah and Lila Grant, young and smiling, standing in this very building. She knew, Professor Grant said quietly, that someday someone would be brave enough to tell the truth. She just didn't know it would take two someones. The committee meeting began, but I barely heard it. I was thinking about karma, about how sometimes the universe's idea of justice looks nothing like revenge. Sometimes it looks like healing. My phone buzzed one final time, an email from Malcolm's lawyer. Another offer of settlement, probably. I deleted it without reading. Some debts can't be paid with money. Some truths are worth more than revenge. Ready to start over? Gideon whispered as Professor Grant announced the fellowship's new guidelines. I looked at the photo again, at Sarah's hopeful smile. At the future she died trying to protect. Yeah, I said. I think I am. Sighed, workers finished removing the last traces of the Hawthorne name. Tomorrow they'd install the new plaque. Life would go on. Stories would end and begin again. But some truths about family, about justice, about the choices we make in the name of love, those would stay with us forever. Not in bronze or stone, but in the deeper, more permanent material of who we'd become.
I set the crystal wine glasses on the dining room table with more force than necessary. Each clink a tiny rebellion against the perfect family dinner I was expected to host. Through the kitchen door, Vanessa's voice drifted in, a hushed, urgent whisper that made me pause. Trust me, it'll work. By the time I'm done, she won't even make it past the bar exam, let alone join that firm. My name is Audrey, and until that moment, I actually believed family meant something in this house. I pressed closer to the door, my heart hammering against my ribs. The wooden floor creaked beneath my feet, and I froze. No, listen, Vanessa continued, oblivious to my presence. I've got contacts at the law school. One hint of academic dishonesty, and her whole career goes up in smoke. Ryan's parents will finally see her for what she is. The wine glass in my hand trembled. I set it down before I could drop it, before I could storm into that kitchen and confront my sister-in-law. 5 years of forced smiles and passive-aggressive comments had led to this, Vanessa plotting to destroy everything I'd worked for. The kitchen door swung open. I grabbed a napkin, pretending to fold it as Vanessa emerged, her phone disappearing into her designer purse. Her perfectly painted lips curved into a smile that never reached her eyes. Need any help, darling? The endearment dripped with honey-coated venom. I've got it covered. I matched her smile, tooth for tooth. Though you seemed quite busy in there. Important call? A flicker of something, fear, maybe, crossed her face before she laughed. Oh, just wedding planning stuff. My friend Caroline is getting married, and you know how bridezillas can be. Fascinating. I smoothed the tablecloth. Especially since Caroline got married last spring. I remember because you complained about her dress for weeks. Vanessa's smile faltered for just a second. Different Caroline. Of course. I turned away, arranging the silverware with precise movements. Ryan should be home soon. Would you mind opening the wine? The good bottle, in the cabinet. She hesitated, probably wondering if I'd heard more than I was letting on. But that's the thing about Vanessa, she always underestimated me. Always saw me as the scholarship kid who'd somehow trapped her golden boy brother-in-law. The doorbell rang, saving us both from the mounting tension. Sam, Ryan's younger brother, stood on the porch, a bottle of whiskey in one hand and that knowing look in his eyes. He'd always been the perceptive one. Ladies, he said, stepping inside. His gaze lingered on my white-knuckled grip on the serving spoon. Everything okay in here? Perfect, Vanessa chirped, already heading for the wine cabinet. Just perfect. Sam raised an eyebrow at me, and I gave him the slightest shake of my head. Not now. Not yet. The front door opened again, and Ryan's voice filled the hallway. Something smells amazing. I watched my husband embrace his sister, saw the way Vanessa's eyes gleamed with triumph over his shoulder. She thought she had it all figured out, the perfect plan to rid her perfect family of the imperfect addition. But she'd forgotten something crucial. Before I fell in love with Ryan, before I joined this family of old money and older secrets, I grew up fighting for everything I had. And I'd learned one thing very well: sometimes the best revenge isn't served hot or cold. Sometimes, it's served with a smile and a perfectly laid table, while you wait for your enemy to make their next move. Sam caught my eye again and lifted his whiskey bottle in a subtle toast. To family, he said, his voice carrying a weight Vanessa couldn't possibly understand. To family, I echoed, already planning my next move. Because this dinner was just the beginning, and I had no intention of going down without a fight. The roast beef grew cold on my plate as I watched Vanessa work the dinner table like a politician at a fundraiser. Linda and Robert hung on her every word about the new children's hospital wing she was helping to fund. Even Mark beamed at his wife with pride, completely blind to the viper he'd married. Speaking of careers, Vanessa said, dabbing her lips with her napkin, how's the studying going, Audrey? The bar exam must be absolutely crushing. I felt Ryan's hand squeeze my knee under the table. A warning or support, I couldn't tell anymore. It's going well, I said, cutting my meat with precise strokes. Though I suppose some people might find it crushing if they hadn't earned their way in. The silence that followed could have cracked glass. Sam coughed into his whiskey. Earned their way in? Vanessa's laugh tinkled like broken crystal. Oh, darling, you're not still bitter about that old rumor about my father's donations to the law school, are you? Ancient history. Ryan shifted beside me. Maybe we should. Actually, I interrupted, I'd love to hear more about your charitable work, Vanessa. It must be so rewarding, having all those connections at the law school. Her smile flickered. Across the table, Sam's eyes narrowed. More wine? Linda offered, already reaching for the bottle. Robert, dear, tell everyone about your new golf membership. But Vanessa wasn't finished. It is rewarding. Almost as rewarding as watching someone work so hard to prove they belong. Though sometimes, effort alone isn't quite enough, is it? Vanessa, Mark warned, finally picking up on the tension. I set down my fork. You would know all about effort, wouldn't you? All those hours spent on the phone, making plans, pulling strings. Audrey. Ryan's voice was sharp. What's gotten into you? The betrayal in his tone cut deeper than Vanessa's barbs. I pushed back from the table. Excuse me. I need some air. The back porch was my refuge, the night air cooling the fury in my cheeks. Behind me, the dinner conversation resumed, muffled by glass and walls. I counted my breaths, trying to regain control. The door opened. Real subtle in there, counselor. Sam's voice was quiet as he joined me. Did you see her face? She knows I heard her. Yeah, and now everyone else knows something's wrong too. He leaned against the railing. Including Ryan. He never sees it. The little digs, the subtle threats. He thinks I'm paranoid. Sam was quiet for a moment. What if I told you this goes deeper than Vanessa's usual games? I turned to face him. What do you mean? I've been watching her for months. The suspicious phone calls, the late-night meetings. She's up to something bigger than sabotaging your career. The back door opened again. Ryan stepped out, his expression unreadable. Sam straightened, nodding to us both before slipping back inside. Want to tell me what that was about? Ryan asked. Your sister is trying to destroy my career, and you're asking me what's wrong? He ran a hand through his hair. Come on, Audrey. Vanessa can be difficult, but she wouldn't. I heard her, Ryan. Today, on the phone. She's planning to spread rumors about academic dishonesty, to keep me from passing the bar. Maybe you misunderstood. There it is. I laughed bitterly. Always defending her. Always choosing your family over. Over what? Over you? His voice rose. You're my family too, Audrey. But lately, it feels like you're looking for reasons to hate them. Inside, I could see Vanessa watching us through the window, her expression almost hungry. This was exactly what she wanted, to drive a wedge between us. You know what? I said, keeping my voice steady. You're right. I must have misunderstood. Let's go back inside. Ryan looked relieved, but confused by my sudden surrender. He didn't understand that sometimes retreat was just another form of advance. As we returned to the dining room, Sam caught my eye and gave me the slightest nod. Whatever he knew about Vanessa, whatever was really going on, I had a feeling I was about to find out. And this time, I'd be ready. Everything okay? Vanessa asked sweetly as we sat down. Perfect, I replied, matching her tone. Now, tell us more about those hospital donations. I'd love to hear all about where the money goes. Sam's text arrived at 3 a.m, Mitchell Financial Group. Tomorrow. Back entrance. You need to see this. I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Ryan. The laptop's glow illuminated our home office as I pulled up the company's financial records, perks of being married to a senior partner's son. Nothing seemed unusual at first glance, but then I noticed it, a pattern of transfers to offshore accounts, all authorized by Vanessa's department. The next morning, I told Ryan I had an early study group. The lie tasted bitter, but lately, everything about our marriage did. Sam was waiting in the parking garage, holding a thick manila envelope. You're not going to like this, he said, leading me to a service elevator. Since when do you have access to the building's security system? I asked as he swiped a keycard. Since I started tracking our dear sister-in-law's late-night visits. The elevator hummed to life. Did you know she's been coming here almost every night for the past 3 months? The executive floor was empty, dawn barely breaking through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Sam led me to Vanessa's office, using another keycard to enter. How much do you know about gambling addiction? He asked, booting up her computer. What does that have to? I stopped as spreadsheets filled the screen. Numbers that didn't add up, transactions that made no sense. These are Robert's personal accounts. And the family trust. And the hospital foundation. Sam's voice was grim. She's been moving money around for months, covering her tracks with fake charitable donations. My hands shook as I scrolled through the documents. She's stealing from her own family? Worse. She's using Robert's credentials to do it. If this gets out, he'll take the fall. The pieces clicked into place, her desperate need to discredit me, the late-night meetings, the sudden interest in hospital donations. She knew I'd figure it out once I started working here. Exactly. Sam handed me the envelope. These are copies of everything: bank statements, security footage, phone records. She's in deep with some dangerous people. A noise in the hallway made us freeze. Footsteps approached, then stopped. Hide, Sam whispered, shoving me behind a filing cabinet just as the door opened. You're here early. Vanessa's voice, sharp with suspicion. Could say the same about you, sis. Sam's tone was casual, but I could hear the tension. Just picking up some files for Dad. In my office? Door was open. Got turned around. A pause. You've been poking around, haven't you? Following me? Paranoid much? Though I guess with what you've been up to, paranoia makes sense. You don't understand. Her voice cracked slightly. I had no choice. Once you start, you can't just stop. Sam's voice hardened. Like you couldn't stop trying to destroy Audrey's career? Or stealing from our family? I'm protecting our family. The sound of something slamming. You have no idea what Dad's mistakes cost us, what I've had to do to keep this family afloat. My heart pounded as I pieced together her words. Robert's mistakes? What had he done that drove Vanessa to this? By gambling with dirty money? By framing our father? Sam laughed bitterly. Some protection. Get out. Vanessa's voice was ice. And Sam? If you breathe a word of this to anyone, especially that scholarship trash Ryan married, I'll make sure everyone knows about your little cocaine habit in college. Wonder what that would do to your new business venture? The door slammed. I waited until the footsteps faded before emerging. Sam's face was pale. Audrey, Save it. I clutched the envelope tighter. We need to figure out our next move. She'll destroy us both if we expose her. Maybe. I stared at the computer screen, still displaying the evidence of Vanessa's betrayal. Or maybe it's time someone called her bluff. As we left the office, my phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. Where are you really? We need to talk. I showed Sam the message. He grimaced. What are you going to tell him? The truth, I said, though my voice wavered. At least, part of it. But first, we need to understand exactly what Robert did that started all this. Because somewhere in this web of lies and manipulation, there was a truth that could either save this family or tear it apart completely. And I was going to find it, no matter the cost. The folder of evidence sat between Ryan and me like a bomb waiting to detonate. We faced each other across our kitchen island, the morning sun casting harsh shadows across his features. So you've been investigating my sister. His voice was flat. With Sam's help. I've been protecting our future. I pushed the folder toward him. Look at it, Ryan. Really look. He didn't touch it. You lied to me. 4 weeks. While your sister was stealing millions from your family. The words burst out before I could stop them. She's gambling with dirty money, using your father's credentials. Stop. He held up a hand. Just. Stop. My phone buzzed, another message from Sam about Robert's old financial records. I ignored it. You don't believe me. The realization felt like ice in my veins. I believe you think you're right. Ryan's lawyer voice, the one he used with difficult clients. But Vanessa's been handling the family finances for years. If something was wrong, Dad would know. Unless she's been hiding it. Unless, I stopped as Ryan's phone lit up with a text. His expression changed as he read it. Vanessa's at the hospital, he said. Apparent overdose. The world tilted. What? Mark found her. Ryan was already grabbing his keys. She left a note. About embezzlement, about gambling debts. About you investigating her. My throat closed. Ryan. Don't. His eyes met mine, filled with something worse than anger. Disappointment. You pushed her to this. He left me standing in our kitchen, the morning sun now feeling more like a spotlight. My phone buzzed again. Sam. Did you hear? His voice was tense when I answered. Ryan just left for the hospital. Sam, I never meant. It's a play. He cut me off. Think about it. The timing, the note. She knows we have evidence. She tried to kill herself. No, she's making sure nobody looks too closely at what she's really doing. Check your email. Now. I opened my laptop with shaking hands. Sam had forwarded an email chain, messages between Vanessa and someone named Marcus Chen, dated just hours ago. Transfer the remaining funds tonight, the last message read. Once it's done, make it look like Robert's mistake. The overdose gives us the perfect cover. She's running, Sam said. The hospital drama keeps everyone distracted while she finishes whatever she started. My mind raced. The Family Foundation auction is tonight. All the accounts will be accessible for donations. Exactly. And Dad's supposed to make some big announcement. A pause. Audrey, if she succeeds in pinning this on him. He'll lose everything. I stared at the evidence folder. And so will Ryan. We need to stop her. How? Ryan thinks I drove his sister to attempt suicide. If I show up at that auction, then don't show up as yourself. Sam's voice took on a familiar edge, the one he got when hatching a plan. Remember how Vanessa always brags about never checking the guest list? About trusting her assistant to handle it? Understanding dawned. You know her assistant? Better. I dated her. She owes me a favor. A brief silence. It's risky. If we're wrong about this. We're not. I looked at my reflection in the window, already calculating what I'd need. Get me on that list, Sam. And find out what Robert's announcement is supposed to be. What are you going to do? I thought of Ryan's face as he left, of Vanessa's smug certainty that she'd always win. I'm going to give her exactly what she wants, a public meltdown. Just not the one she's expecting. After hanging up, I stood in our kitchen for a long moment, touching the wedding photo on our wall. Ryan and me, smiling, his family gathered around us. Vanessa at the edge of the frame, her expression unreadable. My phone buzzed one final time, a message from Mark, she's asking for you. Says she needs to confess something. Please come. I left it unanswered. In a few hours, Vanessa would learn what I'd learned growing up. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemy. It's about giving them enough rope to hang themselves. Tonight, at the auction, she'd have all the rope she needed. And this time, I'd make sure everyone saw what she did with it. The hospital corridor stretched before me like a gauntlet. Through the window of room 412, I could see Vanessa propped up in bed, pale but perfectly composed. No signs of a woman who'd supposedly overdosed hours ago. You shouldn't be here. Mark blocked my path, his usual easygoing demeanor replaced by something harder. Ryan specifically said. She asked for me. I held up my phone, showing his text. Or did you forget sending this? Confusion crossed his face. I never, he checked his own phone, frowning. Let her in, Mark. Vanessa's voice drifted out, weak but commanding. We need to talk. Alone. Inside, the hospital room smelled of lilies, dozens of arrangements already crowding every surface. Of course she'd managed to turn even this into a performance. Quite a show you're putting on. I stayed by the door. The timing's impressive. Always so suspicious. She adjusted her foreline with practiced care. Can't a woman have a moment of weakness? Sure. Right before the foundation auction. Right when Sam and I discovered your offshore accounts. Her smile didn't waver. You sound paranoid, Audrey. The stress of studying must be getting to you. That's what I'll tell everyone, you know. How worried we've all been about your mental state. Like you told Marcus Chin about Robert's mistakes. The monitor beside her bed beeped faster. You've been reading my emails. You've been stealing from your family. I've been saving this family. She leaned forward, dropping the fragile act. Do you have any idea what Robert's gambling almost cost us 15 years ago? Someone had to step in, had to fix things. By becoming exactly what you claimed to hate. By doing what was necessary. She reached for her call button. Now, I think it's time for you to leave. Before I have to tell the nurses about how you came here to threaten me in my weakened state. One question first. I pulled out my phone, playing the recording I just made. Her confession about Robert, about fixing things. How will the board react when they hear this at tonight's auction? The color drained from her face. You wouldn't dare. Watch me. I moved toward the door. Oh, and Vanessa? Check your email. Those transfers you scheduled for tonight? They've been flagged for review. Funny how an anonymous tip can complicate things. You stupid girl. Her voice shook with rage. You have no idea what you're doing. If this gets out, you'll destroy me? Frame Robert? Turn Ryan against me? I laughed. You already tried all that. Now it's my turn. The monitor's beeping reached a fever pitch as I left. In the hallway, Mark caught my arm. What did you say to her? Ask your wife about Marcus Chen. And the missing foundation money. I pulled free. Better yet, ask her why she's really in this hospital bed. My phone buzzed. Sam. It's worse than we thought, he said when I answered. Dad's announcement tonight? He's stepping down. Naming Vanessa as his successor. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. She planned this whole thing. The overdose, the sympathy, the timing. There's more. I found Robert's old gambling records. The ones Vanessa claims she covered up. Sam's voice hardened. They're forgeries. All of them. She created a problem so she could solve it. The pieces clicked into place. Made herself indispensable. And now she gets everything. Unless we stop her tonight. I checked my watch. 6 hours until the auction. Did you get me on the guest list? Better. Got you into the planning committee. You'll have access to everything, including the presentation materials for Dad's announcement. I thought of Ryan, probably still angry, still believing Vanessa's lies. Of Robert, about to hand over his legacy to the woman destroying it. Of the recording on my phone, and all the evidence we'd gathered. Send me everything you have, I said. And Sam? Make sure Mark sees those forged records before tonight. It's time Vanessa's husband learned who he really married. As I hung up, another text came through, from Ryan. We need to talk. Before the auction. I didn't reply. Some conversations could only happen after the truth was out. And tonight, everyone would finally see the truth about Vanessa Parker. Even if it cost me everything to show them. The Mitchell Foundation auction buzzed with nervous energy. From my position near the presentation screen, I watched Vanessa make her triumphant entrance, looking remarkably recovered in her designer dress. The perfect picture of resilience. Robert stood at the podium, shuffling his notes. Linda beamed from the front row. And Ryan, my heart clenched, sat beside his sister, concern etched on his face as he helped her to her seat. Everything's ready. Sam appeared at my elbow, tablet in hand. The real financial records are queued up. As soon as Dad starts the announcement. He's here. I cut him off as Marcus Chen slipped into the ballroom, making straight for Vanessa. Her face remained perfectly composed, but her fingers whitened around her champagne glass. The lights dimmed. Robert cleared his throat. Tonight marks a new chapter for the Mitchell Foundation. My phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. Check your email now. Or your husband learns about Atlantic City. The room spun. I opened my email with trembling fingers. There it was, security footage from 3 years ago. Me, entering a casino. The same casino where Robert had nearly lost everything, where I'd gone to understand what drove him, to find evidence of Vanessa's lies. And so, Robert continued, it gives me great pleasure to announce my successor. Another text, walk away now. Or everyone sees proof that you're just like Robert. A gambling addict destroying this family. Sam, I whispered, showing him the footage. She knew. She knew I was investigating Robert back then. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the new CEO of Mitchell Foundation. It's a bluff, Sam said. We have proof of her crimes. And I'll look like a hypocrite exposing them. My voice cracked. Ryan will never believe me now. Vanessa Parker Mitchell. Applause erupted. Vanessa rose gracefully, tears glistening. The presentation screen lit up with her carefully crafted slides, her vision for the foundation's future. I had seconds to decide. The real financial records waited on Sam's tablet. One click would expose everything. But that footage. Vanessa reached the podium, her eyes finding mine. Before I begin, I'd like to share something personal. Her voice wavered perfectly. About addiction. About family. About redemption. My finger hovered over Sam's tablet. Ryan was watching his sister with such pride, such trust. We all make mistakes, Vanessa continued. Some of us learn from them. Others. Her gaze settled on me. Others continue down destructive paths, hiding their sins behind accusations against others. Mark stood abruptly, documents clutched in his hand, the forged gambling records. But before he could speak, Linda gasped. Robert had collapsed, clutching his chest. Chaos erupted. As paramedics rushed in, I saw Vanessa slip something into her purse. A small vial. You didn't, I breathed. Her smile was razor sharp. Choose, Audrey. Expose me now, while Robert fights for his life, while your marriage hangs by a thread. Or walk away. Live with knowing you could have stopped me, but didn't. Ryan rushed past, following the paramedics. He didn't even look at me. Time's up, Vanessa whispered. What's it going to be? Sam gripped my arm. Audrey, we have to. No. The word tasted like defeat. We can't. Not now. I watched Vanessa follow her family, playing the devoted daughter-in-law. In moments, she'd turned my evidence to ash, my marriage to suspicion, and my revenge to poison. Delete the records, I told Sam. All of them. She'll destroy everything. She already has. I pulled off my wedding ring, the weight of failure crushing my chest. I became exactly what she wanted, the unstable outsider, obsessed with destroying their perfect family. As the ballroom emptied, I stood alone by the presentation screen. My reflection stared back, distorted by scrolling images of Vanessa's triumph. Somewhere, an ambulance wailed. My phone buzzed one final time. Ryan, how could you choose tonight, of all nights, to try to hurt our family? I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. Vanessa had won, not just the foundation, but everything. And I had helped her do it, one vengeful step at a time. The lights went out, leaving me in darkness. Somewhere in the distance, I heard Vanessa's laugh, bright and victorious, echoing through the empty halls of her new empire. The hospital corridor felt different at midnight. Robert's room number glowed like a beacon, 505. Through the window, I could see him sleeping, monitors beeping steadily. And there was Vanessa, alone, reviewing documents in the dim light. Perfect. I pushed open the door. Destroying evidence? She didn't even look up. Come to finish what you started? Funny. I was about to ask you the same thing. I held up the vial I'd retrieved from her purse during the chaos. Beta blockers. Enough to trigger cardiac symptoms without killing him. Clever. Now she looked up, her composure cracking slightly. Where did you? Mark found it. Amazing what a husband will do when he discovers his wife's been lying for years. I moved closer. He's talking to the board right now. About everything. You're bluffing. Check your phone. She did. Her face went ash-white as messages flooded in. Emergency board meeting. Frozen accounts. Marcus Chen's arrest. It's over, Vanessa. Nothing's over. She stood, trembling. You have no idea what you've done. What I've sacrificed to keep this family safe. Robert's voice, weak but clear, made us both jump. Like you kept me safe by forging those gambling records? Vanessa stumbled back. Daddy, you're supposed to be sedated? I pulled out my phone, showing the switched medication orders. The nurses have been giving him saline for hours. He heard everything. You don't understand. Tears streaked her perfect makeup. 15 years ago, when the company was failing, I had to step in. Had to protect us. Everything I did was for this family. By stealing from it? Robert's voice cracked. By poisoning me? By keeping us relevant. She whirled on me. You think you know what it takes to belong in this world? You, with your scholarship and your self-righteous morality? I know enough not to destroy the people I claim to love. The door opened. Ryan stood there, Sam and Mark behind him. My heart stopped. Show them, Robert said quietly. Show them everything, Audrey. My hands shook as I projected the files onto the wall. Wire transfers. Forged documents. The real gambling records, showing not Robert's addiction, but Vanessa's. Years of manipulation laid bare. It wasn't Daddy who almost lost everything, Sam said. It was you. And you've been covering it ever since, haven't you, sis? Vanessa laughed, a broken sound. Of course you'd believe her. The perfect Audrey, who went to that same casino, who's just as capable of investigating you? I finished. Yes, I went there. To understand what really happened 15 years ago. To prove you were lying. Ryan, she pleaded, turning to her brother. You can't believe. Stop. Ryan's voice was ice. The board's waiting downstairs. So is the police. If I go down, she hissed, I'm taking everyone with me. Every dirty secret, every covered mistake. No, Robert interrupted. You're not. He held up a recorder. Because while you were confessing everything to Audrey, you were also confessing to me. The fight drained from her. She sank into the chair, years of careful manipulation crumbling around her. I just wanted to matter, she whispered. To be essential. You were always essential, Robert said. You were my daughter. That should have been enough. Mark stepped forward, his face etched with grief. It's time, Van. As they led her out, Ryan caught my arm. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Would you have believed me? His silence was answer enough. I'll resign tomorrow, I said. The foundation needs you. Robert's voice was firm. The foundation needs someone who'll protect it, even at personal cost. If you want the position. I looked at Ryan, saw the apology in his eyes, the request for a second chance. First, I said, I need to understand why. Why she did it. All of it. Then let's ask her. Ryan took my hand. Together this time. As we left Robert's room, I caught my reflection in the window. The woman staring back wasn't seeking revenge anymore. She was seeking truth. Understanding. Maybe that's what justice really looked like, not the satisfaction of destroying your enemy. But the courage to face the complicated truth about family, loyalty, and redemption. Even if that truth hurt like hell. The Mitchell Foundation boardroom felt different now. Sunlight streamed through windows that had been shuttered during Vanessa's tenure, illuminating the fresh flowers on the conference table. My flowers, a small change that meant everything. The rehabilitation program reports are encouraging, Mark said, sliding a folder across the table. She's trying. I nodded, studying Vanessa's neat handwriting on her latest letter to the board. Confessions, apologies, and something else, suggestions for protecting the foundation from future manipulation. Even in recovery, she couldn't help trying to fix things. Have you read it? Robert asked from the doorway, looking stronger than he had in months. Every word. I closed the folder. She wants to make restitution. Help implement new security measures. From experience, he said wryly. Sam appeared behind his father, tablet in hand. The press release is ready. Mitchell Foundation announces new transparency initiative. Sure you want to do this? Air everything, I said. The gambling addiction, the recovery program, the new oversight committees. Show them we're not hiding anymore. It'll hurt the stock price, Ryan warned, but his hand found mine under the table. Support, not criticism. Then we'll rebuild. The right way this time. Linda brought coffee, her presence in the boardroom no longer unusual. Another change, no more artificial divisions between family and business. I found this in Vanessa's old office, she said, holding out a photograph. The whole family at my wedding, Vanessa's smile tight even then. She was so young when her mother died. Maybe if we'd seen. We all miss things, Robert interrupted gently. The question is what we do now. I studied the photograph, remembering my own hunger for belonging, how it had nearly turned to poison. We help her heal. And ourselves. Speaking of healing, Sam said, Mark's request? All eyes turned to Mark, who straightened. She'd like to see you, Audrey. Says there's something you need to hear. Something about Atlantic City. The old fear flickered, but didn't take hold. Tell her I'll come. But not because I need answers anymore. Ryan squeezed my hand. He understood now, how revenge and redemption sometimes wore the same face. There's one more thing. Robert pulled out an envelope, weathered with age. I wrote this 15 years ago, when I thought I'd lost everything. When Vanessa first stepped in to save us. The letter inside was brief, to whoever finds this, I knew. About the gambling, the cover-ups, all of it. I let it happen because I couldn't bear to see her pain. My silence makes me as guilty as her actions. Maybe more so. You knew? Linda's voice shook. I thought I was protecting her. Robert's eyes met mine. Like you thought you were protecting this family by investigating her. Like she thought she was protecting us all with her schemes. We're more alike than we knew. Sam took the letter, scanning it. Why show us now? Because secrets don't protect anyone, I said, understanding finally. They just give us the illusion of control. The morning sun shifted, throwing our shadows across the boardroom wall, all of us connected, all of us flawed. Outside, construction crews were renovating the building's facade, stripping away old paint to reveal the original stone beneath. The press conference starts in an hour, Sam reminded us. They'll want to know how we move forward. Together, Ryan said simply. I gathered my notes, pausing at the door. The boardroom had been Vanessa's domain, her fortress of secrets and schemes. Now it was just a room, filled with morning light and the quiet strength of difficult truths. Ready? Ryan asked. I thought of Vanessa, working on her recovery. Of Robert, finally facing his own complicity. Of my own journey from revenge to understanding. Almost, I said, placing the old photograph on the wall where Vanessa's corporate awards had hung. A reminder that behind every act of betrayal or redemption, there was simply a family, trying their best to love each other through the darkness. Sometimes that was enough. Sometimes it had to be.